Aang did not expect that he'd wake up one night and become a crown prince. The Dullahan magic stone in front of him glowed with power. As he moved toward it, its force surged, making Silva and Olivia worry for his life. Nonetheless, he continued and held the stone in his hands, attempting to rid it of the dangers hiding within. Before all that happened, he once opened his eyes and encountered a god, who was saying that he was going to be reincarnated soon. To decide his fate after meeting such a pitiful end, he'll be spinning a rare gacha, which will ensure that his next life will only be filled with fortune. He doesn't even remember his old life or how he died, but that's just how it is. Eager to move forward, the god tells him to go ahead and spin already, so he does and gets a super rare white and gold gacha. As it glows upon opening, he sees that he obtained the toxin decomposition skill. It makes him extremely resistant to poisons, so toxins and germs won't even stand a chance. Before he could complain, she opens a portal to send him into his next fantasy realm life, which is a world with stats, monsters, and magic. The young man reached out, desperate and still riddled with questions, but there's nothing he could do aside from following her command. The gentle breeze flows through the windows of a mansion. In his room, Aang wakes up after falling asleep by his table. He just dreamed of the time when he was reincarnated, which was an event that took place 5 years ago. His head was in so much pain, likely from his experimentation with his toxin decomposition, the skill that nullifies any poison or germ. Testing it on the mold he found outside was a success, but there was a price to pay as his head was pounding, and his body felt heavy. While he decomposed the mold completely, he still felt like it was a dud skill. Unwilling to suffer in his second life as well, he decides to live life without using it. He scurried off, called to lunch since he was still going to train after eating. At the courtyard, Aang endlessly swings his sword, putting purpose and intent into each strike. To his joy, his father, Logus, says his technique is finally starting to look proper with effort. The man serves the kingdom of Heim, the largest content, as its greatest general. Their house, Roundheart, governs the Grand Port and holds great sway, even in the royal capital. With that said, Aang thinks he owes his cushy life to the super rare gacha pull. Just then, Cammy and Grint appeared on the yard, and Logus is overjoyed to hear that the boy's training preparations are complete. He warmly praises the boy, saying he already sees traces of a holy knight in him. In contrast, he coldly tells his firstborn to keep swinging alone, while he watches over his brother. As they were leaving, Grint slyly smirks at his older sibling. Grint is the child of Logus's second wife, and is just a year younger than Aang. Aside from this, he carries an exceptional skill. As the older brother, he received the toxin decomposition, which most would consider plain. In comparison, the second son received the Holy Knight skill, which only he holds in the kingdom. Their brother isn't a bad person, but his expectations for his children couldn't be farther apart. Tormented by the gap between them, he practices every day to ensure that he isn't left behind. Just as he panted in exhaustion, he saw a practice dummy wearing a knight's armor. The young boy looked around, checking if anyone was looking, and stood before his new target. A guard notices and warns that it'll be too hard and impossible for his age, but that's exactly why he has to try. With a deep breath, he charges in, eager to somehow earn his father's acknowledgement. His wooden sword hits the steel armor, and his entire body is bounced back from the reverberation. As the guard chuckled at his stubbornness, he shook his hand in pain. Back in the halls of the mansion, he decides to stop brooding over his brother. If he really wants to prove himself to his father and Cammy, the only thing he can do better than others is to put in an endless effort. As such, he studies and transcribes countless books. The boy goes on until the bright sky turns pitch black. Just then, the butler called him over for dinner, and was surprised by the mountain of papers he worked on. He apologizes for getting too engrossed, but his effort to learn and train is nothing less than admirable, especially for his age. In fact, every servant in the mansion believes that he'll be a remarkable general one day. The praise makes him blush, but he can only hope for the best. Flashing a kind smile, the old butler then adds that the lady of the house will be done with her work soon. Aang brightens up at the mention of his mother, and he goes off to see her before supper. Walking through the corridors, he tidies himself up before entering the room and asks for permission to come in. Inside, Olivia welcomes her child with warm and loving eyes. Although she's his mother, he looks at her like an older sister since he still feels the years of his past life. The parent embraces him tight, saying the scent of his hard work in the library still lingers on his body. Blushing from her compliments, he smiles and proceeds to ask about the work she's finished. Since she's always alone, there's so much work to do, and she was wondering how to wrap it up. This makes Aang wonder if it's something their father isn't involved in. Nonetheless, he's amazed by what she can do, as the head of a large trading company. Above all, the mama's boy finds her absolutely beautiful. Olivia then remembers that she has a gift she'd like to give him. Something he's been waiting for has just arrived. He already has an idea of what it is, and is handed a status card, showing his list of stats and skills. Ain's face sparkles with happiness as he thanks his mother, but notices that his stat values feel a bit low. On the contrary, Olivia explains that they aren't bad, especially for someone his age. This allows him to breathe a sigh of relief. What's more, there's a gift of training skill, which makes his body resistant to illness and fatigue. This is a skill earned through his lifestyle, and proof of how hard he works every day. She adds that they can go for a walk after she finishes an errand from her mother-in-law. Apparently, the old woman wants her to pick out some black tea for her. She says she trusts her eye for quality, but Ain knows that such a thing is a servant's job. The reality makes him sad. He blames himself for failing to be a worthy eldest son and causing his mother to be treated this way. Feeling his sentiments, she takes his hand and asks if he'd like to accompany her on this errand. He's overjoyed and would be happy to do so. Later on, a merchant sat in the middle of an empty room and quickly got up as he saw Olivia enter. Following her request, he immediately presents a bunch of tea options for the lady. While the trade was ongoing, Ain noticed a bunch of shining stones on the merchant's box. They are magic stones and have piqued the interest of the little boy. Used in a variety of things, the crystals of mana are found inside other magical species. High-grade stones can negatively affect the human body due to the mana they hold. Fortunately, the man has a low-grade one the boy can pick up with ease. While the two adults carried on with their conversation, he stared at the golden crystal in his palms. It smelled sweet and intense, almost like pure honey, so much so that he got the idea of what it might taste like. He stops himself, never having heard of anyone tasting a magic stone in 5 years of his life. However, the smell emanating was simply too tempting. Neither of the adults were looking his way, so he gives in and licks the stone. A light touch is enough to make his eyes widen in shock. It was incredibly sweet. Asked if there was something wrong, he brushes it off and guiltily says that he'd like to buy the stone. The merchant gladly gives it to them as a treat for his regular customers. With Olivia finalizing the deal and choosing 3 different teas, she invites her son to proceed with their walk in the garden. When he stands up to follow her, he notices that the crystal in his hand has turned clear and smooth. The next day, Ain was practicing his swings as usual. Although he was tired, he was oddly overflowing with power. He sees the armored dummy from yesterday and gets an idea. Noticing him again, the guard repeats his warning from yesterday. Regardless, the boy charged in with the sword held firmly in his hands. Gritting his teeth, he swung across the dummy's body and was able to stand his ground this time. The force is shocking and sends dust throughout the grounds. He then celebrates over not being sent flying unlike yesterday, but notices that his wooden blade had completely broken off. Even more surprising, he turned to the armored dummy and watched as it fell down. His attack cut cleanly in half, slicing through the wood inside and the steel armor covering it. The guard couldn't believe what he was seeing, and neither could he. Little did they know that his stats had skyrocketed since last time. The carriage steadily moved through the streets of the city. Inside, Olivia pouted with obvious dissatisfaction. Her son discourages her from being so angry, but that's out of the question. There's a reason why she, who's usually calm and kind, was acting that way. A grand party is being held, and Logus seems to plan on announcing Grint as the next head of house. He'll also reveal the boy's engagement to Shannon at the early age of 4. Ain's mother apologizes, knowing he must feel left out due to his father's favoritism. He does feel a bit lonely, but more than himself, he pities his mother who's always looked down on because of his incompetence. While thinking of ways to prove himself to his father and to others, the boy remembers the moment when he cut through the armored dummy. The adults brushed it off as mental fatigue, but he knows something changed ever since he tasted that magic stone. Just then, they arrive at their destination and exit the carriage. Ain's jaw drops as he sees a huge mansion, much more grand than theirs. It was huge and splendid, fitting for the only one holding the Grand Duke status in the entire kingdom. Logus then instructs the two to wait in the hall, while he and Grint meet Shannon's family. The boy is surprised, especially when his half-family mockingly smirks at him, but Olivia just curtly turns and calls for her son to follow. Cammy called for her husband, saying the Lord is waiting. To make things worse, the two are later told that Ain is not allowed to attend the party. The event allows only 1 child per noble family, and Grint has already entered. Since it's their clerical mistake, Olivia asks them to make an exception, but it isn't possible. It already smells like a ploy from Cammy, who wants nothing to interrupt her son's day. The receptionist who's caught in the middle urgently apologized to the frustrated mother. Since he wasn't excited about the party anyway, Ain handles the situation well and exclaims loudly, bringing his mother's attention to the beautiful courtyard outside, even adding that he'd love to stroll around. The man couldn't be more grateful, and heads off to ask the head of the house for permission. Olivia asks if he's really okay with not attending the party. More than attending a party, he would be much happier spending time surrounded by the magnificent garden and joined by his mother, who is as beautiful as the flowers in bloom. Moved by his sentiments, she gives him a tight hug. The receptionist hurriedly came back, saying he's received permission. What's more, the Duke told him to assign a guide that could host them while strolling around. As the two looked in confusion, a brilliant child walked forward to greet the eldest son of the Roundheart family. Her name is Crone, and she's the granddaughter of the head of the August family. Ain blushes as he sees the girl. Ain politely but flusteredly returns the introduction, and asks what business the Duke's granddaughter might have with him. For some reason, Crone blankly stares at him for a moment, before composing herself and apologizing for the incident caused by her family's negligence. To make up for it, she'll be acting as their guide, as they enjoy the family's prized gardens. With this, the three of them walked through the gorgeous yard while the sun was setting. While the two ladies exchanged pleasantries and compliments, Ain couldn't help but marvel at a bunch of blue flowers that were glowing. Crone recommends visiting around twilight, believing it is the most beautiful time. She silently observed the mother and her son, warmly bonding over the plants. In the party earlier, she heard people gossiping about Ain and how he's supposedly rude and lazy. With Grint as Logos's successor, Heim's future was more secured. Now, she realizes that rumors really can't be trusted, as the boy is the most gentlemanly person she's met today. He takes her by surprise by suddenly coming up and calling her beautiful. Like an ignorant boy, he shifts the compliment over to the glowing blue flowers. Composing herself, she says it's a blue fire rose, which generates its own light. The requirements for its life are so strict, making it difficult to cultivate. She adds that no matter how dazzling it is, one must be careful, as a single rose contains enough toxins to kill 1,000 men. The poison inside causes burning pain inside the body, earning it its name. Olivia chimes in, saying the flower can also become a beautiful gemstone, in its most literal sense. Carrying crystallizing matter properties, it activates when the poison inside is extracted. Then, called a star crystal, the gem flickers like a brilliant fire in the night sky. They are extremely rare, with only 2 existing in the entire kingdom of Heim. After all, the extraction method is unique and requires expensive medicine, probably worth an entire year's worth of the territory's income. Ain remembers the god's notes about his ability to decompose any poison of bacteria. With the image of Logos outright preferring his half-brother in his mind, he steels his resolve, willing to accept the pain as long as he doesn't pass out. Asked if she'd like to see a star crystal, Crone says she's admired them for a long time. Surely, his power was given to him for this very moment. Believing that there's something he can do, he reaches out to the deadly flower. The two ladies panic and try to stop him, but it's too late as he's already taken one into his hand, pulling it out by the thorny stem. Just then, the mana and poison inside it steamed away from the bloom. He feels as though he was thrown into cold water. The sensation can be likened to the sting of a carbonated drink, with the coolness of mint. For some reason, he doesn't feel the pain and fatigue he experienced last time. Crone still tries to pull him away from the dangerous plant, but his mother stares in wonder, already getting an idea of what he was trying to do. Ain continued, certain that he could achieve what he wanted. Just like the god said, against poison, there's no one stronger than him. The flower in Ain's hands lit up, and the ladies had to cover their eyes from the blinding flash of light. As it subsided, they're shocked to see that the fire flower had completely crystallized into a beautiful star gem. Crone was in disbelief, seeing the boy hold the invaluable item so casually. Apologizing for the surprise, he kneels down and explains that it's part of his skill, albeit one that she's never even heard of. He says he's brought what she's been wanting for so long, and brings the crystal to her, asking if she'd accept it. Olivia stood there, eyes and mouth wide open while her son waited for a reply. Nothing came for a while, and he wondered if it was too cheesy of a gesture for someone he just met. Hoping she isn't laughing at him, he slowly opens his eyes and sees the girl, beet red, heart thumping, and shocked by what he was doing. Still cautious, she asks if he was really giving her the precious crystal. With a bright smile, he says he'd actually be troubled if she doesn't accept. Calming her beating heart, she reaches out to take the gem. Shining more brilliantly under the moonlight, she accepts his offer with a smile. Delighted, he then asks for permission to take another, for his mother this time. He does the same to Olivia, and presents something priceless without a second thought. Later, returning to the main hall, Crone says her goodbyes as she has to greet the others as the host. Ain formally expresses his gratitude for what she did, but she suddenly scolds him for using formal speech, and warns him against doing so again. Chuckling, he addresses her casually and the two young children share a warm moment. Finally parting, the two are left to wait for the rest of their house members, but Logos does not appear, even when everyone has already left the event. Olivia approaches a maid and asks if anyone has seen her husband. To their surprise, they're told that the general had a banquet to host, and left the venue early without even saying a word to his family. The act was so cold that they can't shrug it off this time around. Despite his mature mind, Ain frowns with sadness, wondering if his father considers him that worthless. Gasping as it's the first time Olivia has heard him speak so honestly, she makes up her mind. Coming close to her son, she asks if the boy likes his father. Although grateful, he ended up disliking him, unable to forgive the way he treats his mother. She quietly accepts his sentiments, and suddenly smiles brightly, commending him for the answer. As his parent, she can't bear to see him suffer anymore either, so she grabs his hand and pulls him over to follow. Now, they'll be going to a place more beautiful than anywhere else, which is their true homeland. It's the first time Ain has heard of a true homeland. Confirming what she just said, Olivia takes the engagement ring on her finger and suddenly dissolves into the air with her touch. The boy is baffled by her actions and asks what she's doing, but is told that they don't need it anymore. Now, she pulls her hair back to reveal a golden earring, which shines as he calls for the carriage that will bring her home. Without explaining anymore, she invites her son to head back to the port town soon. Their ride back to the mansion is fast, even somehow making it back before midnight. To the boy's confusion, they don't stop and the carriage just keeps going. Still not explaining, Olivia just smiles and says they're going a bit farther. He can't really do anything but accept, and soon after, he looks out the window oddly hearing a lot of noise late in the middle of town. People outside were frantic and crying out for the knight's order. Ain quickly joins their panic as he sees an enormous warship moving into the kingdom's port. While he grew pale with worry, Olivia calmly got off the carriage and called for him to follow. Seeing the renowned and respected noble, the people asked what was happening. Stairs dropped to the platform and countless soldiers started descending, marching out towards the crowd without a word. The townspeople panicked again and ran, fearing for their lives. Seeing them all stop in front of Olivia, Ain unhesitatingly puts himself between them and his mother, until she assures him that everything is okay. Just then, the soldiers parted, allowing for a lone captain to tell the brave boy to be at ease. With beautiful blonde hair and shining armor, she crouches down, introducing herself as Tina, and saying it's an honor to meet him. He's surprised that she isn't an enemy, and can't help but acknowledge her stunning features. As it's been a while, she shares that she rushed to the port as soon as she received Olivia's call. After all, the warship itself is named the Princess Olivia. The name hangs in the air for a moment. Stunned, Ain asks what exactly that's supposed to mean, but his mother says that she'll just explain things on the way. Together, the two board the ship. Meanwhile, in the Grand Duke's manor, Duke Graf is informed about the composed demeanor shown by the young boy earlier. Crone vouches for the remarkable character of the Roundheart family's eldest son. What's more, he even offered her the precious star crystal. He ponders over it for a while. Given how they sent the second son instead of Ain, he worries about them breaking their pact. With his granddaughter's confusion, he starts to speak of something that must remain between them. Assured that she understands, he talks about a continent across the sea, 4 days away from Roundheart Port, Eshtal. It's a single and unified nation, carrying culture, technology, and military might Heim could never match. Wondering what this has to do with the current situation, Crone is told that Olivia isn't a random daughter of a birdland merchant. The current king of Eshtal is King Silva, and standing beside him is his daughter, the second princess of the nation, Olivia. In other words, Ain's mother is nothing less than royalty. While sailing through the seas, Olivia apologizes to her son for keeping it secret. He asks why someone like her is staying in the house of Roundheart, and she's about to answer when Tina shakes her head to stop her. The mother clings to Ain and whines about the scary look, which the guard claims is necessary. Since it's true, Olivia promises to just explain things when the time is right. He smiles as it's the first time he's ever seen her so laid back and relaxed. Knowing how hard she always tried in Heim, he prefers this side of her. Moving on, they talk about the star crystal, which the boy personally gave to his mother. It's no wonder she treasures it so deeply. After all, giving one to another person is considered a marriage proposal. The boy is stunned by the information. Sweating bullets, he turns from the knight to his mother, who knowingly smiles at him. Remembering how Crone accepted the crystal, he screams in absolute disbelief. He didn't realize what his actions meant, but considering who he did it to, he doesn't think it's too bad. Not minding him for now, Tina says they'll likely arrive at the capital before noon. They'll be riding a water train, which they say is powered by water heated with magic stones. Making the connection, he casually guesses that it must generate steam to move, and goes on about how huge the gap between Eshtal and Heim is. Meanwhile, the two ladies were gleaming at his unexpected words. As they fawn over how knowledgeable he is, he reasons that he just read something in a book, realizing that he almost revealed his identity by talking about his past life. As it'll still take a while before they reach the capital, the guard advises them to rest for now. With this, The mother and son spend delightful and calm days, with Aang even getting a new set of clothes for the kingdom. Soon enough, they reach the water train that leaves the young boy in awe. Aside from the technology surrounding them, various species filled the buildings, all mingling like it's the most natural thing in the world. His eyes gleamed at the sight, and it's been that way ever since they arrived at the kingdom. Eshtal's a multi-ethnic nation, so elves, beast folk, and many others live together in one place. For some reason, Tina had a tired look on her face. She opened the door, sharing that they had finally arrived. It was incredible, and the entire area was filled with towering and magnificent sights he had never seen before. Right by the gate, the vice captain of the royal guards saluted and announced their entry. As the gates opened, Aang was amazed by her charisma, but Olivia quietly reveals that she's actually a klutz. Proving her point immediately, Tina stepped aside to let the two pass, but nearly dropped to the floor, before stopping herself right in her tracks. The mother and son share an understanding chuckle. While walking through the castle halls, the princess asks if her father was informed about the situation. Unfortunately, things happened so abruptly, so she wasn't able to tell anyone. People were even instructed to pretend like they didn't see Olivia until the two met. The directive came from Martha, who doesn't want the king to worry. As someone who's been with the princess since she was young, Aang will meet her soon. He forms the image of an old and charismatic woman in his mind, but his thoughts are cut short as they arrive at the council chamber where the king is. It'd be rude to barge in while he's in a meeting, but the daughter doesn't care and boldly bursts into the room anyway. She announces her arrival to a room full of important people. Her father saw her and immediately stood up in surprise. Aang couldn't help but stop breathing, intimidated by the sheer aura of Eshtal's king. As a true superpower, the king's mere presence is capable of freezing the room's atmosphere. While Aang gulped down in intimidation, King Silva demanded to know what his married daughter was doing at home. He then turned his attention to the boy, questioning who he was. He shakes and his voice is caught in his throat from the nerves. Fortunately, his mother's gentle touch and smile helps him regain his composure. Calming down, he greets His Majesty, introducing himself as a former member of the Roundheart family. Finally realizing who he is, Silva approached the polite child and crouched down to meet his eyes, introducing himself as the king and his grandfather. His gaze was surprisingly warm. Just then, another man stepped forward, saying they'd been eager to meet him. Kneeling as well, Lloyd, the Grand Marshal of the nation, pledges his life to Eshtal. The boy shakes the burly man's hand, placing himself in his care. Silva then notes how Aang called himself a former member of Roundheart. Laughing deeply, he says they must surely be joking. However, Olivia brightly states that she dissolved her marriage and won't be returning. The room is still with her words. Feeling like it's a nightmare, the king asks the marshal to punch his face, but it won't change reality, so he just demands an explanation from his daughter. Her only reason is that neither she nor her son could ever find happiness there. Stunned by her revelation, the head of the nation postpones their meeting and tells everyone to keep what they heard a secret. Tina is then ordered to bring Warren and Katie, as Olivia will be explaining everything before the court. Some time passes and the princess' story is told. Veins of anger appeared on Silva's head, and his fury seeped into the very air of the room. He tells Lloyd to prepare, and the equally enraged marshal vows to swiftly avenge his liege. Fortunately, Olivia wants to drop the matter, and reminds them of the non-aggression pact. Katie, the first princess, chimes in, saying it's still too much to disinherit anyone over their innate skill. Aang stared at her, unable to believe that she's a talking cat. The princess is then granted permission to tell her son everything, since the pact is already broken. For a better view, Warren, the Prime Minister of Eshtal, volunteers to explain. Olivia's marriage was done to secure sea crystals, a precious resource possessed by Haim. These are crystallized remains of sea monsters, mainly used in the kingdom's magitech devices. The boy has seen such things in Haim, where they're actually common. Unfortunately, the materials deposits near Eshtal's borders have been mined dry. As the nation's residents use magitech every day, they seek a steady supply. The princess followed her royal duty and married to secure those very crystals. The advanced nation offered protection, and the plan was to elevate Aang into a duke once he became of age. Aside from being a fair deal, this would keep the princess and her son safe from the sea dragon threat, something that intrigues the boy. Lloyd suggests starting the search for a new supply right away, but Olivia says there's no need, since she's already found one through years of hard work. She asks her son if he remembers all the work she does every day, and he finally understands what she must have been doing. After hiring merchants and adventurers to scour the world, she finally found a new source, and she even brought all the details with her. Warren looks over them and is confounded, as the location she indicated was already surveyed. To his shock, she's suggesting land-based sea crystals. Olivia hid her identity and posed as a trading company, but her skills are truly superb. The room is awestruck by what the princess just achieved. Ain knew exactly how many years and how much effort she devoted to that mission. Despite this, she was the perfect countess, and was even revered by the townspeople. After Grint was born, she was mistreated at home, but never lost her smile. What's more, she always spent time with Ain, no matter how busy she was with her duties. In contrast, he believes that he only ever caused her pain. Silva then apologized, realizing how pressured she must have been to do all that. She refutes it and puts her arm around her son, saying he's everything to her, and that she can do anything for him. No hardship is too great for the person who brought her true and unending happiness. Her words bring him great comfort, and the others smile upon seeing just how much the second princess has grown. Deciding to arrange a time for her wishes, the king starts making amends and calls on Warren, who then brings the documents he requested. With impressive speed as always, he's already procured the queen's consent and seal. Now, all that's left was for everyone else to sign it. They all do so happily and without a shred of hesitation. It is witnessed by both Lloyd and Warren. The seriousness and formality of it all confuses the boy, but it's only the beginning, as the king of Eshtal suddenly called Ain. In his name as the head of the nation, he declares then and there the induction of Ain into the royal house of Eshtal. Others would laugh it off as a dream. Despite being born as the eldest son of a count in a country smaller than this, without even having his efforts acknowledged, discarded as baggage for a more useful sibling, the ruler of the most powerful continent in the world, in one night, names Ain as crown prince of an unparalleled superpower. In the royal capital of Eshtal, the news about Olivia's divorce and return was already spreading, along with questions of what Haim must have done to cause it. On top of that, they were also talking about the new crown prince and what type of person he must be. At that moment, Ain was in the castle training with Lloyd, who wiped the floor but praised his stroke. In fact, it was apparent how much effort and training he put in every day. The boy is happy to hear such praise, but knows that his brother, who just started training, is likely already better than him. As someone eager to prove himself, he worked hard but ended up leaving without any achievements. Wondering if the kingdom's people will ever accept him as the prince, he says things could have been different if he had an actually useful skill. When he hears this, Lloyd notes the tear on the boy's shirt. Calmly approaching, he suddenly takes sewing tools that are kept in his clothes. The child was perplexed as he started to put the thread into the needle, more so when he began sewing the tear in his clothes, with amazing dexterity and skill. The whole is seamlessly put together in the blink of an eye, seeming like it wasn't even there. The marshal's skill is tailoring, one that is completely related to his position and combat ability. While it might be embarrassing for someone of his stature, he reached his place with sheer effort. Still, he couldn't perform those moves without a trained body, no matter how high his skill level is. Holding the boy's shoulders firmly, he says that effort is the real treasure that opens doors. If he continues to put the same effort he has until now, his worries will eventually be resolved. Ain is struck by his inspiring words, but the two can't bond any further as they hear constant meowing. Katie appears and tackles him, saying she's been looking for him the entire day. Without waiting for permission, she drags him along, borrowing the boy for a bit. They arrive inside a messy room filled with books and research notes. Ain asks why the princess had been looking for him, and is told that she wants to investigate what Olivia told her about him. Just then, Tina appeared, chuckling as she noted how the two got along quite well. Fortunately, it isn't that big of a challenge to talk to a cat. The boy is told to show his status card for now. Katie is bewildered, saying his stats are way too good to justify disinheritance. His numbers are much higher than the last time he saw them, and there's even a new absorption skill listed below. This is proof that he's the son of Olivia, and a racial trait of the Dryad species. He blinks in confusion for a few beats, and soon goes off about seemingly not knowing about his mother's lineage at all. For various generations, the Eshtal royal family has intermingled with various species, and it's essentially a gacha game of what race is born of offspring. Back to the topic, they talk about his stats, which are growing abnormally fast even with training. Katie already has an idea of why this is happening. It's likely because he absorbed mana from a magic stone. Monsters can do this by eating the stones, which humans normally can't due to the toxins. It's just a hypothesis for now, but she thinks his decomposition skill makes it possible. Asked if he has any memory of this, he remembers how he accidentally licked a sweet magic stone while negotiating with a merchant in Haim. That said, the stone was cheap, so how could it increase his stats by this much? It's Tina's turn to speak, and she reveals that he also absorbed the mana inside her. He urgently denies it, insisting that she doesn't even have a stone. On the contrary, elves and demi-humans like her all have them. The news surprises him, since it means he has one as well. While they were riding the carriage to the capital, she noticed that she felt sluggish several times, and lost the strength in her legs in random moments. The image of her nearly collapsing at the gate flashes through his mind. Aang then worries for her life and asks what happens to the stone when its mana is absorbed. Fortunately, she won't die unless he completely drains the energy inside. It was a long explanation, but it's finally time to test things out. Katie provides a couple of boxes filled with different stones and tells him to absorb everything. The small ones are cheap, while the big ones are exponentially more valuable. He picks a small one up for now. After a while, he finishes his task and places the last crystal back into the box. The princess is flustered by how easily he did everything, and Tina notes how all the cheap stones lost their color. Now, he's asked to move on and do the same thing to the more valuable ones. Putting it up to his mouth, he wonders how they're going to taste. The two worry and rush to him, as he suddenly gags and chokes. Fortunately, the boy just isn't a fan of how they taste like walnuts. When the experiment ends, Katie concludes that Aang can absorb power unconditionally or without limits. Her eyes light up as she stands to explain. Basically, his stats won't increase past a certain point, no matter how much mana he absorbs. Although it feels like a hard limit, he can still be considered superhuman at this point. Another new skill appeared, likely from one of the high-grade stones he absorbed. It was odd as he felt perfectly fine and in good condition, in contrast to how he passed out the first time he used his skill on mere mold. It's the effects of his fruits of training skill, which makes him more resistant to fatigue. A voice called from outside, and Olivia entered the room. Olivia hugs her son tightly after missing him. Katie and Tina are both awkwardly smiling at their affection for each other. The first princess states that the results of Aang are perfect. She feels relieved after this and brings him to meet his grandfather. After greeting them, Silva then escorts them before a grand royal gate. This is the entrance to the castle treasury. The king then places his hand on one of the gate's red orbs. It then opens and they see the nation's treasures. Confused, Aang questions why they are in such a grand place. Silva replies that Olivia wants to give him a gift. The boy is surprised to hear this, since he feels it to be so random. The king's gaze then locks onto the great treasure in front of them. He tells his grandson that it is the national treasure of Eshtal and is called Dullahan's Magic Stone. He narrates that over 500 years ago, a demon lord appeared on their continent and wreaked havoc, and Dullahan was said to be that demon lord's right hand. A single swing of his sword could break the heavens and split the sea. Some say that Dullahan was a black knight of immense power. Hearing all of this, Aang can't believe that they are entrusting him with such an important treasure. With a gentle smile, Olivia states that her son is deserving of a treasure that was once used by the first king who unified their land. Aang's heart starts thumping loudly, and he feels like the story is familiar to him. Silva asks his daughter if she is sure about giving her son the national treasure. Olivia confirms this, and the king finally agrees. With this, Aang slowly steps toward the magic stone. Silva warns his daughter not to get any closer, placing himself between her and the treasure. Since it contains great mana, it might overwhelm them. Aang finally gets closer to the magic stone, and the toxic mana around it starts to react, much to the surprise of both the king and Olivia. Nervous, the prince gulps and slowly places his hand on the stone. Suddenly, the toxic mana surrounding the stone begins swirling around him violently. Olivia screams, afraid for the safety of her only son, while the king continues to protect her. Aang feels a surge of overwhelming power flooding into him. The mana continues to swirl around him uncontrollably. The force almost sends the two out of the room. Silva screams that he should let go immediately if anything feels wrong. However, Aang firmly holds the magic stone as the toxic mana rapidly floods into him. The mana glows bright and strong, and then suddenly dies down. The king and Silva wait as the dust settles. The air then sizzles with incredible power. Aang's body is overwhelming with power, and even Silva and Olivia are both in awe. Meanwhile, in Archduke August's estate, Crone is intently watching the moon being blanketed by the dark night. While touching the blue gem, she thinks of Aang and wishes to see him again someday. In her room, she gazes at her blue gem. She can't help but think about Aang's smile. She feels extremely lonely after their last conversation. Just then, someone knocks on her door. A maid then enters, asking about her progress on her assignment. She then points to the finished assignment on her table. Seeing the surprised look on the maid's face, she tells her that she managed to finish it in 2 days instead of a week. She smiles at the woman and passes a message for her father to make the next task a little harder. The maid heeds her request and quickly heads to the door to deliver the finished assignment. Alone again, Crone pushes herself to focus more, so that when she meets Aang again, she will be worthy to stand beside him. However, before exiting, the maid looks at her once again and tells her that the Duke has some message for her. Exhausted, she flops onto the bed and states that she will add horseback riding and other lessons to her schedule. However, the Duke apparently told her that she should prepare a letter for Aang. Hearing this, she immediately panics and asks the servant why she didn't tell her sooner. since this is a more important matter than her lessons. She frantically searches for her pen and stationery. Overwhelmed, she stops, confused about what to write since she has never written to a man before. The maid begins to giggle, much to Krone's embarrassment. The maid apologizes, having never seen her panic like that before. She suggests that she ask her father how to do it. Krone agrees and immediately runs to her father's study, despite the servant's request for her not to. With much adoration in her heart, she can't help but look forward to writing a letter for Ain. She even wonders what he is doing right now. Meanwhile, back in the Eshtal kingdom, the king and the princess are all impressed by Ain's feat. He just absorbed a national treasure so easily and brilliantly. Silva reminds him that no matter how great his power is, it will all be meaningless if he doesn't know how to wield it. He then looks at his daughter and comments that everything happened according to her plans. She knows that her son has the ability to absorb power from magic stones, and yet kept it a secret. With a somber look on her face, Olivia admits that she really meant to fulfill her duty as a royal with the late head of the House of Round Heart, whom she trusted the most. She had her doubts about whether she could take root with Logus, and so, Ain was born as a dryad. The king is so shocked hearing this as she continues to admit that she felt a long time ago that her marriage with Logus would end. Ain is left confused and doesn't understand anything that was revealed to him. The king apologizes and tells him to return to his room first, since he will discuss something with his mother. Although still full of questions, he follows the king's request and leaves them together to talk. Later, he is having afternoon tea with Warren and Katie. The first princess sighs and states their failure to protect the second princess and letting her marry into the Roundheart house. But because of this, a dryad was born again in the royal line of mixed blood. Curious, Ain asks what take root means. Being blunt as ever, Katie explains that it simply means baby making, which utterly shocks Warren. The old man scolds the princess, saying that she must observe finesse. She dismisses him and continues to explain that the act carries a much deeper significance. Dryads only mate once in their lifetime with their soul partner, with whom they share their life force. Incredulous, he whips his head toward Warren, who confirms that the words of the princess are true. Ain contemplates the situation and realizes something. Katie can read his mind and adds that dryads can create their offspring without mating at all. With this, she confirms that he is Olivia's offspring alone, and an almost duplicate copy of her. Warren sighs after the realization. Olivia couldn't be together with her husband, and yet as royalty she had to bear an heir. This must not have been an easy decision for Olivia. She must have used her hypnosis and managed to make her husband believe that Ain was their offspring together. She looks at Ain and tells him to forgive his mother for lying to him. The boy smiles, admitting that he's glad that his mother has nothing to do with Logus, although they won't be able to control what others might say about her. Warren points out that Olivia still fulfilled her duty by giving birth to Ain, and so no one would dare blame her for this. After hearing all of this, Ain feels lighter, and now he's starving. Katie comments that he is quite resilient after all that drama. She then warns him not to go to the audience chamber in his state. Confused, he asks why he needs to bring up the audience chamber. Warren replies that it houses another national treasure called the Demon King's Magic Stone. If Ain gets too hungry, he could subconsciously absorb nearby magic stones, and this would be tricky for them. He is surprised to hear this, since the Demon King was the enemy the first king defeated. Katie points out that the room was the very reason Tina almost collapsed, and so he must be careful around that chamber. Interested in the first king, Ain asks more questions about the hero. Warren indulges him with more stories about the noble man. The first king was truly an inspiring figure beloved by many, since his strength and heart were unmatched. Overwhelmed by how great the man was, Ain asks if his legend spread even beyond their borders, wondering if his name even reached time. Warren assures him that the first king's legacy won't easily be forgotten, and that a lot of people look up to him. Suddenly feeling somber, Ain realizes that everything he has now was given to him by his mother. He hasn't accomplished anything on his own. Even with the crown prince's title, he feels like only a burden. With this, he swears to make Haim pay for what they did to his mother and prove to the Roundhearts that they were wrong for treating them badly. It might sound brazen, but he declares that he will become like the first king. He will lead everyone with heart and strength, and his name will be etched in history. Hearing this, Warren pledges his loyalty to the prince. He will also order Lloyd and Tina to teach him swordsmanship. Meanwhile, he will take care of his scholarly training starting tonight. Katie suddenly jumps on his back, declaring that she will research his power herself. She then pulls him to her lab, wanting to study his Dullahan's power. He tells her to calm down as she continues to drag him down the hallway. Warren solemnly looks at the prince, and he can see the resemblance between him and the first king. Meanwhile, in the town, the people are living their normal lives, while Ain is peacefully strolling through the woods. Lloyd informs him that his training involves fighting the monsters living in the forest. This time, the rabid creatures will surely aim to kill him. Unlike the knights he used to practice with, Ain takes his words seriously. Just then, a horrifying forest rat appears. Tina is about to teach him how to handle the monster, but the prince refuses and instead unsheaths his sword and bravely faces the beast. The two knights cheer for him, while he focuses on the movements of the enemy in front of him. He eyes its fangs and claws and notes that he should be careful around those. Just then, the beast bares its fangs and lunges at him. The rat's shriek echoes in the forest. Ain manages to defeat another rat after striking it with his sword. Aside from the rat, a different monster appears and lunges in his direction. After defeating all of them, Lloyd commends him for swiftly finishing the beasts. Tina smiles proudly, saying that Ain is a very capable swordsman, so it is not surprising. Just then, a giant slime appears behind him. Tina is about to unsheath her sword. Fortunately, Ain manages to deflect the attack using the tentacles behind his back. The two knights are in awe as they witness firsthand the power of Dullahan called the Phantom Hand. It is a dark technique that he mastered during his 8 months of training. The length and strength shift depending on the magic that he pours into it. He can also use the special claws that Katie made to pierce other monsters and drain their energy while they are still alive, called the Dark Straw. Tina remarks that it is indeed another dangerous device created by the first princess. However, he realizes that the flavor is richer when he drinks it rather than absorbing it from the claws, and notes that he will mention it to Katie. The two knights comment that this sounds really promising, although they seem awkward about it. Later, they are inside the carriage bound for the castle. While looking outside, Ain notices a magic stone shop nearby. Tina comments that it is a famous shop that even supplies magic stones to the castle. Since Ain finds it fascinating, Lloyd suggests that they drop by for a while, which excites the prince. After stopping in an unassuming alleyway, Tina and Ain wear disguises to hide the prince's true identity since he has not officially announced his royal status yet. Meanwhile, Lloyd stays behind so as not to draw further attention. They then enter the shop, and he is welcomed by a flashy-looking man. Ain is visibly shocked after the greeting. He whips his head to Tina and comments that he would love to buy magic stones and not be there for other things. Flustered, Tina points out that the owner is a bit eccentric, but that it is a legitimate magic store. She adds that the owner is actually kind, so there is nothing to worry about. Maji, the store owner, approaches after seeing them in discussion. Tina smiles awkwardly at her, and the store owner immediately recognizes her. She then eyes Ain and wonders if Tina is chaperoning him, which the knight confirms. Maji takes a drag from her pipe and asks what the boy wants to buy. Ain states that he wants to buy magic stones, which quite surprises the store owner. She remarks that she likes his taste for magic items and thinks that they will get along. She tells them they are free to look around, but they must not touch the stones on the sea crystal pedestals. It could affect their bodies and pose danger to them. With this, Ain starts to look around at different gems. Fortunately, he can now control his mana absorption power, and he can only catch a faint smell from different magic stones. Before, he could smell a strong, sweet aroma from the stones that made his head spin. Out of nowhere, he smells something delicious, like a steak. He follows the aroma and sees a blue orb nearby. Maji remarks that he is intuitive, since the magic stone is from a white bison, a monster known for its high-quality meat. The owner asks if he is interested in it, and since he has never smelled anything like that magic stone before, he immediately buys it for 30,000 gold. A bit embarrassed, he tells Tina that his grandfather gave him pocket money so he could buy whatever he wants. Seeing him enjoy himself, she gently reminds him that he needs to keep his real identity and his ability a secret. With this, Aang goes on a shopping spree and buys every magic stone he likes. Tina sighs, thinking about how much pocket money the king gave him. Maji then prepares the magic stones for him. Aang's mood lights up, and he can't wait to taste all of the magic stones when he gets back to the castle. He then senses something and looks behind him. There, he sees a purple gem and becomes entranced by it. Maji tells him that it is a cursed magic stone and hands him the bag of his purchases. She narrates that it appears in the dreams of its owners and keeps chanting that it wants to get out. She was not really believing those rumors, since it is almost impossible, but she decided to seal its power inside the special case. Aang looks at the stone again but does not feel that it is cursed, though it seems dangerous. He wonders if Katie could find out more about it for him, and decides to buy the stone along with its special case. Tina pleads with him not to buy the gem since it might pose a danger to his safety. Maji looks at him carefully and asks if he is under a spell. Aang assures her that he is sane and that it is his own choice. She discloses that the cost of the special case alone is 30,000 gold. Aang confidently pays right away despite Tina's objections. Maji reminds them to bring back the magic stone if anything goes awry. Tina tries to object again but ultimately just sighs after realizing that she can't do anything to stop the prince. She just resorts to trusting Maji since she was the one who sealed the magic gem. With this, they decide to buy the gem. As Ain continues to look around the store, Maji sighs, commenting that the prince is a pain in the head. Tina is utterly shocked to hear this, and tries to deny the truth, but miserably fails. Maji comments that Tina is so obvious that she knew right away the real identity of Ain. Tina pleads with her to keep the truth between them. She assures the knight that their secret is safe with her, and reminds her to be more careful next time. Teary-eyed, Tina thanks the shop owner. After buying everything he needs, Ain leaves the store fulfilled. He shifts his attention to his knight, and notices that her eyes look red. Tina immediately wipes her eyes and tells him it's nothing and feels like a little itchy. The knight falls and Ain flops on his bed, feeling tired. The maid, Martha, enters the room and changes his clothes. Feeling awkward, he tells the servant that he can change his own clothes. She replies that since she is Olivia's personal attendant, it's normal that she serves him too. He is about to object once again, but she just gives him a forced smile which shuts him up. She then hands him a letter, informing him that the letter came from the port of Yahello and from a noble of Heim. After what happened with Ain and Olivia, the Eshtal kingdom severed ties with them. However, they still went out of their way to deliver the letter to another country. However, she is doubtful of the letter and suggests that he dispose of it immediately. He studies the letter for a while and then opens it. He is quite shocked when he reads the letter. It is from someone who narrates the day they met and how it changed something within her. She thanks him for the gift he gave her and how she continues to cherish it, keeping it with her no matter where she goes. Despite the letter not having the sender's name, Ain is sure that it came from Krone. However, she will only reveal her name if Eshtal would send a letter inviting her to the kingdom. Realizing that there's a possibility they'll meet again, Ain gets flustered. Ain stares at the letter for a while, still reeling that he actually got a letter from Krone. Martha asks if they should send a reply, and the prince confirms since Olivia has been fond of Krone as well. But he is worried that it will be difficult for someone from Heim to enter their kingdom. Martha assures him that if the person is someone close to Olivia, it should be okay. This puts him at ease, expecting that Warren would agree with the arrangement. He looks at the moon shining brightly outside and immediately thinks of Krone, looking forward to their meeting again. The next day, Ain gets busy training with other knights. Olivia, Lloyd, and Tina are all in the audience cheering for him. The knight is about to strike him down, but he manages to swiftly evade the attack. With this, Ain manages to aim his wooden sword at the knight. Cornered, the knight accepts defeat and Ain is announced as the winner. He then excitedly runs towards his mother, and she immediately touches his face. Feeling proud, she commends him for being such a hard worker. He then turns to Lloyd and Tina and thanks them for always mentoring him. Tina remarks that it is all because of his hard work and expresses her happiness for his improvement. While teary-eyed, she also comments that he has become a truly magnificent prince. Meanwhile, Lloyd reprimands the knights that lost against Ain and tells them to run laps around the outer wall until the sun sets. Ain approaches Lloyd and tries to defend the other knights, stating that he just got stronger by absorbing magic stones. However, the man disagrees with him and replies that one of his skills only manifests to those who exert effort in their training and prove to be diligent. Because of that skill, he mastered the toxin decomposition skill as a result of his hard work. He then tells the prince that he is ready to begin whenever he is ready. Confused, Ain asks what he's talking about. With a big grin on his face, he replies that he should do a mock battle with him. This immediately sends shivers down Ain's spine. Later, the town is disturbed by a large explosion from the castle. As the dust settles, Ain immediately accepts defeat after he has just dodged a powerful attack from Lloyd. The man is impressed at how he managed to evade his strike, adding that he has truly grown strong after all his training. Tina rushes to Ain's side to offer him a glass of water, but he warns her not to get too close since he might absorb her magic stone since he is exhausted. She instantly moves away from him. Lloyd announces that the mock battles are over and with Ain's current skills, he should be ready for more opportunities. Confused, the boy looks at his mother. Olivia explains that since he is turning 7 soon, they should prepare for his enrollment in the academy. Ain is busy studying in his room. Olivia informs him that the academy where his father is a director is in the capital. It is recommended that he enroll there and commute via water train. He sighs, nervous that he has to attend the academy as the crown prince. Suddenly, Tina knocks and pops her head inside his room, asking if he could walk with her. Later, the two are walking behind the castle grounds. He had no idea that such a beautiful beach is situated there. Tina mentions that it is rarely used for leisure and is normally used as an emergency escape route. Since it is the day of the entrance exam tomorrow, she questions the prince about what type of exam he will be tested in. He replies that he will have a practical exam on swordsmanship. She gives him an assuring smile, stating that he will definitely pass the exam since he has both her and Lloyd's seal of approval. Ain hopes that it is true and wonders if she and Lloyd could beat Logas in combat. she fails to answer the question since it is tough to answer. Instead, she wants to show him something interesting. She then proceeds to drop her sword onto the sand. He focuses on what she is doing and intently watches as she drops the sword. She then lets go of her weapon, and his eyes follow its descent onto the sand. However, he is utterly shocked when he realizes that Tina has vanished. She then taps his shoulder, startling him when she suddenly appears beside him. Tina reveals that she moved the moment her weapon fell. In this case, even Logos would lose sight of her, and Lloyd would likely win the battle as well. Realizing the true strength of the two knights, Aang aims to surpass them in order to become like the first king. He thanks Tina for bringing him out to the beach and helping him relax before the exams. She shyly admits this, noting that he is sharp as ever. Just then, a strong gush of wind blows, causing Tina's hair ribbon to be blown away. Seeing her with her hair down makes him blush. She immediately apologizes and tells him that she will tie it back up. Noticing that he falls silent, she asks what is wrong. The prince averts her gaze and replies that it is nothing. The next day, Aang is accompanied by Tina to the busy academic district. It is bustling with many people and lively with students, teachers, researchers, and parents. The young prince is in awe as they walk around. Finally, they arrive at their destination, and Tina points out that they are currently at the Royal Kingsland Academy. Before departing, Tina wishes him good luck and cheers him on to do his best. Aang walks through the big hallway looking for the testing center. He finally finds it, but as he enters, a student is shoved across the room, hurting his back. Seeing the boy covered in injuries, Aang checks on his condition. Just then, an intimidating man speaks, goading the boy to go home to his mother since he is weak and pathetic. Aang looks at the examiner, Rick, and is disappointed by his foul mouth. With a thunderous voice, he shouts for the next student to fight him. As Aang watches the next fight, he is glad that the students are forbidden to give their names during the exam to avoid giving special treatment due to status. Rick mocks the boy he just defeated and declares that he failed as well. More students line up to fight with him, but the results are just the same and they all lost to the examiner. He also made it clear that skills are allowed as long as they are not long-range weapons. He then looks at Aang, who is the last one to fight with him. As he walks toward the examiner, he contemplates on not using his skill since it's too dangerous. He resolves on using just his brute strength. He then unsheathes his weapon and confidently faces Rick. The man urges him to come and attack, wanting to test his ability. With this, Aang swiftly lunges to his direction, showing how agile he is. Rick is momentarily shocked, but manages to deflect his attack. He smirks, noting that the boy has some potential in him. Aang then moves with incredible speed, striking him on different parts of his body. He plans to confuse the examiner on his next move and use his size to his advantage. He then finds an opening and goes for it. However, Rick is faster and manages to land a blow, making him step back. With much confidence, he declares that the kid is not on par with him. Aang silently agrees with his statement since Rick is stronger than the castle knights. However, he refuses to believe that he can't defeat the man. He tries to calm himself while the examiner continues to challenge his mental strength using his insults. He doesn't let the man falter his resolve. Seeing his determination, Rick says he won't hold back and makes sure that he would teach a spoiled brat like him a lesson. Starting to get serious, Aang asks if he can use his skills as long as they're not magic. Rick tells him to show what he got regardless, confident that he'll win anyway. Gritting his teeth, Aang is barely holding his anger. The examiner keeps insulting his swordsmanship skills, and it feels like Lloyd and Tina are getting insulted as well, since they're the ones who mentored him. He even insults his mother, the one who brought him up. Suddenly, a surge of energy radiates from him. Rick is shocked when he sees the air sizzles with so much power. Angered, Aang uses his Dark Knight skill. Rick is stunned upon seeing dark tentacles coming out from the boy's back. He demands that he explains this, but Aang refuses to, since that rule doesn't exist. Resolute, Aang grips his wooden weapon tight and braces himself for the fight. Rick smirks, noting that extra arms wouldn't scare him off, likening his opponent to an insect. This makes the boy more annoyed. The examiner then lunges to his direction, and they start to exchange blows. Rick notes that Aang just gave him more reason to move because of his extra arms, but nonetheless this won't guarantee him a victory. He then proceeds to evade the attacks and unleashes more strikes, mocking Aang again in the process. Catching his breath, Aang realizes that his phantom hands are not enough to defeat the examiner. He decides to power up again. Another surge of energy flows within his body, giving him an extra boost of strength. This doesn't faze Rick at all, but Aang is determined to make sure that the man will suffer for insulting his mentors. He unleashes a strike at Rick's direction, and the examiner dodges just in time. He follows the man's movements and doesn't let him breathe with his quick attacks. Rick tries to retaliate, but his move isn't strong enough to stop the phantom hands. While he is preoccupied, Aang finds an opening and leaps to land a blow. He smirks, Having predicted his enemy's next move, he manages to block his attack, but is pushed back by the impact. Ain notes that it's not smart to use both of his hands to block him, and proceeds to use his phantom hands to overwhelm the examiner. Angered, Rick pushes him back. However, Ain commands another phantom hand to attack him. This finally breaks Rick's weapon. They continue to try overpowering each other, giving their all in this fight. Ain commands more of his phantom hands and overexerting his mana. A loud boom then follows, and the whole arena is now covered in dust. With visible injuries in his arms and other part of the body, Rick manages to stand up again. He looks intensely at Ain and remarks that he has never met a kid like this before. Impressed, Ain asks if they should continue with their fight. However, Rick replies that there is no way they could continue the duel. He points out that the arena is now completely trashed, and with the injuries he sustained, someone will surely cover the next exam on his stead. Realizing that his emotions got the best of him, Ain immediately apologizes. He admits that he went too far and expected that he would definitely fail for what he did. Rick looks at him with his brows raised and makes his way to the boy. Holding a rolled certificate in his hand, he lightly taps his head and comments that he can sense that he fights for others, and that's a noble work. He then declares that he passed the exam and hands the boy his certificate. Surprised, Ain apologizes again for acting so arrogant, but Rick replies that they both did, so it's now all settled. Ain smiles and bows his head, respecting the examiner. After getting the passing mark, Ain is happily walking down the hall. He looks for Tina with a smile on his face, informing her that he won the fight. However, he is surprised to see her boiling in rage. She congratulates him nonetheless, but he asks why she is mad at him. She bluntly tells him that his use of the Dark Knight was dangerous, and reminds him of his promise to never show it to anyone ever again. Yet, he even used it out in the open for everyone to see. He tightens his grip and apologizes after causing trouble again. He just got carried away after hearing those insults about them. Flustered, Tina pauses for a while but manages to regain her composure and reminds him once again that using his power publicly will put him in danger. Worried, he asks about the examiner's condition. Tina assures him that the academy has enough healers and the examiners are trained enough. She also mentions that Rick was once a famous adventurer and he has just defeated the man, so he should be really honored. This fact doesn't surprise the boy at all since his opponent was really strong. As they go back, Tina warns him that the king will hear about the duel, so he better brace himself. A few days later, Ain really gets a scolding from Silva for using his power. He apologizes to his grandfather while Olivia is trying to mediate between them. The king sighs and reminds him that he will be turning 7 soon. This means that he must begin the duties and responsibilities of a royalty, especially since he is the crown prince. Because of this, he will be joining them on an official visit to Magnaport town. Olivia is thrilled to hear that Ain has his first official royal duty, while the prince is left speechless. Meanwhile, Crone is looking at the vast sea. Her grandfather urges her go back inside as she holds the blue gem close to her heart. Warren presents to Ain Eshtal's prized battleships that are all lined up before him. In awe, he looks at the vast sea, surprised that even Magna is a naval port. Tina notes that the naval port is the backbone of their national defense. Port Magna is one of Eshtal's 3 great cities. In the morning, the market bustles with different catch from the sea. It also houses the military harbor, and they are there today to inspect the warships and facilities. They walk around the town and add in their agenda to inspect the first batch of harvested sea crystals from Yahello after Olivia secured the contract. Warren wants to show Ain the unprocessed sea crystals and commands Tina to open the crate. The knight steps toward the crates and uses her sword to break the lock. The prince inspects the sea crystal and notes that it looks like a lump of salt to him. Warren agrees with his observation and laughs. The old man then informs him that it's his last official duty of the day. Ain thanks him and comments that he enjoyed doing his royal duties. Since he's done for the day, he asks permission to buy a gift for his mother since it saddens her that she wasn't able to join him. Meanwhile, his grandfather, the king, is thrilled for him to get new experiences. Warren requests that he wait before heading into town while Tina checks some documents aboard. Ain agrees, but declines Warren's offer that he stays in a room. Since they are in a port, he prefers to wait on the pier and watch the ocean. However, Tina immediately disagrees since it's dangerous to be in that area and accidents may happen. Warren calms her down and offers Ain the Crimson Gem of the Earth. The gem was forced from a dragon's core and it will protect him from danger. Despite this, Tina reminds him not to wander far from the pier. Ain swears to abide her words and wait for her to finish her work. Ain is looking at the open sea. It is the most relaxing sight he has seen in the long. Since it is already autumn, the air is chilly yet feels warm and soothing as well. He suddenly craves for a nap, but worries that someone could see him. He looks around and observes if there are people nearby. He then eyes the stack of wooden boxes near him and decides to use them to take a nap. He situates himself in the middle of the boxes. As he gets comfortable, he realizes that the public hasn't seen his face as the crown prince yet, and this might be his last chance to relax. He smiles as he lays down, lulled to sleep by the shady spot of the crates. As he looks up on the blue sky above him, he can't help but feel amazed by the calming sound of the sea. He slowly closes his eyes, remembering that Roundheart was a port town too, so it's kind of nostalgic for him. With this thought, he finally falls asleep. Just then, a presence arrives. Ain is dreaming of spending time with his mother on a garden full of flowers. In his dream, he sniffs the exquisite flowers, commenting that they smell so nice. Olivia agrees, saying that they indeed have lovely scent. Suddenly, he sneezes. At present, Ain gets accidentally tickled by a girl's hair. Hearing her voice, he slowly opens his eyes and gets a whiff of a familiar smell. She wonders what will his first words at her will be, guessing if it's to greet her or to thank her for lending her lap while he's sleeping. Realizing he is not dreaming anymore, Ain finally is wide awake. Ain is staring directly at Crone. He then reaches out and gently touches her hair. He wonders if it is okay to say that he missed her. She holds his hand and reciprocates the longing. Meanwhile, Tina is watching from afar with a smile on her face. Warren joins her too. Crone tells Ain that she is shocked when she learned that he is a royalty. Ain admits that he felt the same. She confesses that meeting him again seemed impossible since he went to another continent, and talking with him feels so surreal. Curious, he asks if she is alone. She then points to the location of her grandfather and their attendants. She adds that her father is now the new duke and head of the family. After retiring, her grandfather was supposed to take her to the trading city for recuperating. However, on their way to the kingdom, her grandfather suddenly went missing. After hearing about it, Olivia helped them enter the port of Yahello and board a ship to Eshtal. It would be a disaster if it would be known to public that people from Heim are currently inside their kingdom. Having apologized too, Crone tells Ain that he doesn't have to feel guilty about it and thanks him for waiting. Tina finally arrives and he asks if her work is finished. She confirms this, having left the rest to Warren so she can focus on him. Ain is about to introduce Crone, but Tina saves him from doing so since she has met the girl earlier while he is taking a nap. She reprimands him yet again for putting himself in danger. She then shifts her attention to Crone, asking if she wants to join them in walking around the town. Crone bows before the prince, asking him if he permits her to join them. Flustered, Ain allows her to join them. That night, Crone meets with Olivia and expresses her gratitude for all her help and consideration for them. The princess tells her not to be formal with her and just speak casually like before. Crone heeds her request and the princess immediately perks up. Crone then wonders what she wants to talk about. Olivia asks her what she wants to do moving forward. Seeing her hesitation, the princess assures her that whatever she says will be only between them. Earlier, Warren and Tina asked her the same question. She couldn't voice out that it was all because she received an invitation from Ain to come to Eshtal, and that she badly wanted to see him again. She bluntly tells the princess that it is hard for her to say it out loud, since they are in a tight situation. Olivia smiles and rather questions her intent to stay for the rest of her life in Eshtal. Determined, she admits that she has that resolve the moment she left the August estate. The princess is stunned for a moment, and suddenly, a smile slowly forms on her lips. She lights up, accepting Crone in their life so easily. With this, she decides that Crone should attend the academy next spring. The school is different from Ain's, but it is being run by her mother, the queen. She promises to make her the best version of herself and turn her into the finest jewel of the kingdom. In this way, no one will question her origin. With teary eyes, Crone accepts the princess' offer to help her, grateful for her kind heart. That night, the prince continues his lesson and buries himself in his royal duties. Martha serves him a hot tea and tells him that he should go and rest for the night. He smiles, assuring her that he'll go to bed soon. He sips on the hot tea and feels the warmth envelop his body. Determined to finish his tasks, he pushes himself more for the final stretch. He continues to study until late, and after a while, decides to finally rest. Just then, Crone breathes on him from behind, causing him to jump from his seat. She winks at him, laughing at how jumpy he can be. Flustered, he asks what she's doing there. She replies that she has just finished her lectures too, so she came to check on him. Feeling awkward, he comments that she should have just called out to him normally. She notes that he is too focused, so he didn't notice her at all, adding that seeing him study made her so inspired and feel like she needs to work harder as well. He smiles and informs her of the upcoming party to celebrate his mother's return to her homeland. She heard it from Warren and has received an invitation. He voices out his fear of attending since he hasn't formally introduced yet as the crown prince. She urges him to attend since the problem is really them being there. He is convinced by her words. When asked where she is heading, she informs him that she is on her way to the castle's grand bath. He tells her how spacious the grand bath is, and so she needs to take her time and enjoy it. She smiles mischievously at him and asks if he wants to get in the bath together. He shyly screams that he will not share a bath with her, pushing her to go on so she can rest early. After teasing the prince, Crone makes her way to the grand bath. The day of the party, Ain is happily observing everyone mingling with each other. It seems like his family is enjoying the party. Just then, Crone arrives, rushing. She apologizes to Ain for being late since she had to greet other guests as well. The prince is stunned for a bit and immediately compliments the lady after seeing her in a beautiful dress. She reciprocates his compliments and replies that he looks good in formal wear too. They stand together on one side of the venue. Crone expresses how Eshtal never failed to surprise her. She recalls the time she rode the water train and how amazed she is with the advanced technology and transportation. Even more, it is available to the civilians, and as she looks at the cityscape, it was so dazzling and as beautiful as an overturned jewelry box. Aside from this, she also observes that the magic stones are widely used in the kingdom. Ain agrees and notes that he was surprised too how the magic stones are widely accepted and used in Eshtal than in Heim. They continue to observe the crowd when Ain admits that it's his first time in a grand party since he hasn't turned 7 yet. When asked about his debut, he replies that he will celebrate it in the upcoming spring. Crone promises to make a speech for him and advises that he make one too and use someone he admires as a reference. He tells her how he admires the first king and wanted to make him as his hero. The problem right now is whether he can speak like his grandfather. Crone agrees with this since he speaks so gentle like his mother. Suddenly, they hear 2 men talking about Crone and throw a disgusted look at their direction. The men think she would defile the castle since they came from Heim. Crone assures him that she is fine and encourages him to just enjoy the party and don't let this ruin their mood. Trying to distract him, she offers to get him some food and leave him alone for a while. He watches her blend into the crowd when Warren appears behind him. He notices that he is alone and asks about Crone. He replies that she went to get them some food. Warren smiles at him and states that he must enjoy the party since it's for him too. The king felt bad about what he had to endure at the Heim. Ain looks at his grandfather, who also gives him a warm smile and a little wave. Warren adds that the monarch is thinking of officially naming him as the crown prince, which surprises the boy. Meanwhile, while she's getting food, a man stands in Crone's way, mocking her origin and driving her away from the party. Warren assures Ain that he will deal with the situation, but is shocked when the boy is immediately at Crone's side. Annoyed, he calls the man rude for treating his guest badly. The man questions his authority in interrupting, not knowing who he truly is. He calls Ain insolent for stepping in, stating that the nobles of Eshtal have overwhelming hate for Heim. What they did to Olivia was unforgivable, and so it is only right to treat them with animosity. Crone tries to stop Ain, but he assures her that he'll be fine. He remembers the time when his mother and he were treated like they were nothing in Heim. They had nowhere to go, and his father obviously favored his half-brother. However, it wasn't Heim's fault or Crone's. It was all because he failed to make his father acknowledge him. He was then saved by his mother from heartbreak by taking him out of Heim back to Eshtal. So, if the nobles agree to hate on Heim, they can also direct the hatred to him. The people are stunned to hear this. Ain then declares that he truly understands the man for being dissatisfied with a crown prince disinherited by the nation they despise. Seeing the surprised look on the man's face, he clarifies that he doesn't intend to punish him for what he did, blaming himself for being powerless, making his mother suffer, and being laughed at for being the incompetent first son. But then, he met Crone and found another reason to prove his worth. He apologizes to everyone because of his past weakness, but assures them that he is a much stronger person now. He then grasps the magic stone in front of him, and a surge of incredible power flows within him. The noble tries to warn him about the stone being dangerous, but all of them are shocked at how easily he handles the stone's energy. They are all in awe as soon as they see that the magic stone turned transparent. He declares that he will not lose to the monsters and shows them the gem he turned into a transparent one. After showing everyone the power he holds like the first king, he asks if they believe that he isn't right for the throne. The king rises from his seat and is about to object to his actions, but he has flashes of the past king and his grandson. Determined, he tells everyone that they should not resent Crone and come to him instead. Raising the transparent gem, he declares that he is Ain von Eshtal, the official crown prince of their kingdom. He will strive to be the first king who led their land to its glory. If they can accept him, he appeals that they accept Crone too. He sighs and inwardly berates himself for letting his emotions get the best of him again. Crone then points out something to him, and he is beyond stunned when he sees the crowd kneeling and bowing before him, showing their acceptance of him as the crown prince. With this, he has finally become the official crown prince of Eshtal Kingdom. After his declaration as the crown prince at the party, a formal debut ceremony was held for the citizens of Eshtal to witness their crown prince. The people are accepting of him, and admire him for being strong enough to obtain power from the magic stones. Meanwhile, the girls gush at his romantic move of protecting Crone from discrimination. The sight was beautiful and felt like it was straight out of a fairy tale. Warren observes the situation and can see that the people are becoming fond of the new crown prince. Crone offers Ain a glass of water during his break. The king sighs from his throne, commenting on how sudden Ain's proclamation was. Meanwhile, Warren reports that Ain's reputation among the nobles is excellent so far, so there is hardly a problem. The king remarks that he would normally reprimand his grandson, but he has suffered enough back in Roundheart. He then remembers the speech Ain gave at the party and notes that it was the same words as the first king before. Warren agrees. He has never taught the prince about the first king's words before, so he is quite shocked to hear it from him. He wonders if he read it from the history books, since the young prince really looks up to the first king. He then reports about Crone's progress in her studies and notes that she has been studying hard every day to transfer to Libby Girls Academy. Along with this, he also presented her with 3 educational paths to choose from. First is to be a civil servant, second is to become a lady of culture and refinement, and third, to possess the knowledge and charm of a queen. Curious, the king asks what she chose. Warren reveals that she aimed to become a queen that the people can look up to and love, someone who can support the king and be his guide, but also wants to become someone with high refinement and serve the people. The king laughs at this, since basically she chose all of them. He looks warmly at the two, saying that they are what Eshtal needs for their bright future. As he continues to observe the two, he gets a quick glimpse of what they would become as the future leaders of their country. Spring has finally come, and this means that Ain and Crone will finally start their days at the academy. While sending them off, Olivia wants to make sure that they have everything they need. Ain enthusiastically confirms this. Since they will be in separate schools, she wishes him well and promises to do her best as well. Olivia hugs her son, not wanting to be apart from him for long. She contemplates on dropping him off directly at the academy, but Tina disagrees. She tells Olivia that her presence alone would cause an uproar at the academy, so she should refrain from doing so. She assures the princess that she will be with the prince all the time, so she can rest easy. Olivia smiles at Tina but remarks that she can be clumsy and an airhead at times, so Ain should still be careful. As the young prince agrees, Tina starts to sulk on the side. Ain and Crone then bid their goodbyes to her. Before they depart, Olivia reminds her son not to forget to have fun. With a big smile on his face, Ain assures her that he will. Later, they finally arrive at the academy, and Ain is immediately overwhelmed by the crowd. Tina assures him that she will escort him to the academy. She adds that the hard part is just getting there, and that the academy is the most relaxing place for learning. This confuses Ain since he can't imagine the academy being relaxing at all. They walk through the school grounds and finally arrive at the main hall. Looking excited, Ain can't believe that he will spend his academic life inside that building. Tina then tells him that her escort duties end there, and another guide will come and tour him around the academy. She then calls a boy around Ain's age. The boy immediately bows before him, acknowledging him as the royal prince. Tina then introduces the boy as Dill Glacier, Lloyd's and Martha's son. This shocks him to the core. Still reeling from the shock, he listens as Tina tells him how much of an achiever Dill is, noting that his night cadet skills outshine anyone his age. Still unable to move on from what he learned, Ain had to confirm once more that Lloyd and Martha are a married couple. Tina confirms once more, and since the two hold high positions in the palace, they don't show affection with each other while at work. The young knight introduces himself again, honored that he is assigned as the prince's guard. Ain is about to greet the boy, but Tina delivers a message from the king. He tells his grandson that he should not treat his servants casually when around other people, and must observe proper decorum and learn to carry himself like a royal in public. With this, he clears his throat and greets the young knight properly. Ever so formal, Dill greets him back, saying that it's a pleasure to serve him. The prince offers that if it is just the two of them, he can call him Ain. However, Dill flatly refuses, saying that he is nothing but a lowly guard. Tina reminds him that she will accompany him when he is ready to leave and never go home alone with Dill. The prince agrees, especially since she is so insistent about it. He then wonders if Tina really doesn't trust him after his few mishaps. Later, the two start walking down the hallway of the academy. Realizing it, he asks if there is no entrance ceremony. The knight confirms that there is none, and that everyone goes straight home that afternoon. He then sees a huge door and assumes that it is their classroom. As he is about to enter, Dill stops him, saying that it's the Class 2 room. Dill then points to the next door, saying that it is for Class 1. Ain looks up and is greeted by one massive gold door. Dill remarks that Class 1 is reserved for top achievers and the cream of the crop, so it's only natural to show off their rank. As part of the top class, the students are trained and nurtured in the best conditions, whether they are nobles or commoners. The academy takes pride in pure meritocracy. Hearing that he will be with the top students, he tells himself to step up his game and study hard. After bidding goodbye to Dill, he tries to figure out how to open the door. To his surprise, suddenly, the door opens with his presence. He then looks at his classmates, who are each doing their own thing. Some of them glance at him, while others continue with their business. He quietly walks towards his seat, and quietly recalls that Class 1 has only 10 students, assuming that those are all his classmates. He starts to feel afraid that he might not get close to anyone since they are so few. He then sits beside a wolfkin as a teacher walks inside the classroom. The man introduces himself as Luke, and that he will be teaching Magi engineering and will be their homeroom instructor for the rest of the school year. He wasn't supposed to be their teacher, but someone quit. Straightforward, he tells them that their class is exceptional, so there is only one thing he expects from them, which is delivering great results. He then dismisses the class, which surprises the students. Before leaving the room, he mentions that as long as they continue being exceptional students, they can skip class but must make sure to attend the biannual exam. He also adds that they can consult any teacher if they have troubles or use the school facilities as needed. With that, the teacher completely leaves them on their own. Ain is quite surprised that they have so much freedom as the top class. His seatmate agrees with his sentiment and introduces himself as Lauren, sharing that he is majoring in Magi engineering. When asked about his major, Ain replies that his is swordsmanship. Lauren realizes that he is the infamous guy everyone is talking about who defeated the examiner. He even heard that Ain smashed the man's face and blew up the whole arena. The others hear their conversation and all look at Ain. With an awkward smile on his face, he just wishes that his classmates won't see him as a ticking time bomb who can just snap anytime. Lauren asks for his name, and as he is about to introduce himself, Dill enters the room and announces his presence. Lauren recognizes Dill as the son of the head knight, wondering what he might be doing in their class. As the young knight reports to Ain, he couldn't help but address him with his status as the royal prince. Hearing this, the whole classroom erupts in shock. Dill asks him if he is ready for the academy tour. He then looks at his seatmate and shakes the wolfkin's hand, since he failed to introduce himself properly earlier. He then offers to come along on the tour around the academy. Lauren respectfully declines his offer, saying that he has papers to submit to the professor. Ain waves at him with a friendly expression on his face. As he leaves the room, Lauren can't believe that his seatmate is actually their nation's crown prince. Dill tours Ain around the academy, discussing different facilities that are important for him to get familiarized with. Exhausted, Ain comments that the academy feels like a castle itself, and they're not even finished touring all of the facilities. Dill assures him that he will stay by his side as much as he can so he can guide him through the academy, but there will be days that he can't avoid due to his own classes. Ain agrees with him since he doesn't want his guard to sacrifice his own schedule just to be with him. Dill insists since the prince's safety is his priority. Ain almost sighs since Dill is so stiff with him. To try and ease their conversation, he looks around to find an easy topic. He then sees a group of girls and asks the boy what kind of girls he likes. Dill looks blankly at him, and so he asks if he wants someone who has long hair or someone with a kind personality. Enthusiastic about his tactic, the prince thought that he finally closed the gap between him and his guard. However, to his dismay, the boy even makes a grumpy face, confused about his question. Disoriented, he questions the prince as to why he is asking such queries. But anyway, the guard still answers and prefers someone who can fight and is stronger than him. It would be great if he finds someone who risks their lives protecting others and ideally over 190 centimeters tall. Hearing this, Ain remembers Tina and thinks that she matched all of his descriptions. Dill continues to describe his type and adds that someone on par with his father would be great as well. Ain then imagines a woman with a muscular build but with Tina. However, a powerful build doesn't match her image in his memory. He comments that his type seems hard to find but cheers him on. Dill appreciates his support since when he told his friends about it, they just laughed at him, finding his type ridiculous. So, the prince's support means a lot to him. Hearing this, he feels like his distance with Dill is starting to close. It might be just an inch right now, but it is still a step forward, and this makes him happy. He then invites his guard to grab dinner together since he wants to talk to him more. Dill follows his request. However, the dinner's setup is far from his expectations. As he eats, Dill is just standing behind him, watching his back, and ensuring that he is safe. Meanwhile, at the Libe Girls Academy, the girls surround her trying to matchmake her with their brothers. With a regretful look on her face, she states that a commoner like her could never match with a nobleman. However, the girls disagree with her. The Chancellor has approved of her, and with her unmatched beauty, surely there will be noblemen who would fall for her charm. She thanks them for their kind words, but refuses to give the royal family trouble. The girls understand what she meant and apologize for overstepping, and just hope to form a good match. She thanks them for thinking of her and putting her welfare first. She looks forward to getting along with them. Seeing her warm smile, The girls blush, seeing her pleasant face. Crone quietly contemplates that she won't be staying too long in the academy as a transfer student. But if this is where Olivia once studied, she is sure that the place will cultivate her potential and help her reach her goals. So, she needs to strive hard and do her best and make her stay in the academy worthwhile. That night, in the outskirts of Eshtal, the knights are alarmed and in panic after discovering that one of their high-risk prisoners escaped. The cell can be only opened with a special magic tool, and they all wonder how he managed to get out. The head orders the knight to bring him all the roster of the recent staff. As he looks at the list, he can't help but be worried. The prisoner is known as the Slacker and a vampire, and they must capture him immediately since he is a threat to the peace of the kingdom. He is a former adventurer hired by a noble and a ruthless killer who murdered for gold. Elsewhere, the vampire prisoner stands in a clock tower and smiles. Ain waves goodbye at Lauren after their class. On the school hallway, Dill escorts him while checking how he's settling in. The prince states that he is adjusting just fine, although the lax system of the academy makes it hard for him to decide what he should do for his own training. Suddenly remembering, he asks Dill about the teacher that got changed. Dill pauses for a while and reveals that the issue wasn't publicly announced and is kept a secret. The previous teacher was dismissed because of his twisted beliefs and behavior. He is Magnus, the third son of a marquis house tied to his own duchy. The teacher taught pharmacology and has insane interest in toxins. In addition to this, he broke the academy's code and openly discriminated against the commoners, giving unfair treatment based on status. The investigation happened during Ain's enrollment, and they launched a full investigation, during which they found out about his corruption, and he subsequently was fired. Dill helped with the interrogation and found out that the teacher developed relationships with the nobles to gain more influence. When asked about Magnus's last known whereabouts, Dill reveals that he is currently reassigned to schedule management for the knights. He admits that he sought harsher punishment since he has a strong sense of justice. Ain expresses that he can't stand people like Magnus either since he has never flaunted his royal status nor has intentions to do so. He doesn't care if someone's noble or not, he'll give respect to those who deserve it. Dill smiles at him and states that he has a truly admirable attitude. With this, he tries to convince him to call him by his first name, but the guard flatly declines again, reminding him that he is just his protector. Later, Tina arrives and escorts Ain. On their way home, Tina spots the patrol knights and excuses herself for a while to check in with them. She promises to go back right away and requests him not to wander off alone. Ain awkwardly smiles at her and assures her that he'll behave. He stands by the post and starts getting overwhelmed by the crowd of people. Just then, he spots female students getting ganged up on by three sketchy-looking men. The girls are visibly stressed and scared of the men. Based on their uniform, he notices that they are students from Live Girls Academy like Krone. The men try to intimidate the girls, since they have no escort. One of them tries to touch one of the girls, but Ain steps in and places himself between the men and the girls. The commotion starts to get attention from the crowd. The men tower over Ain and question his intention playing hero. They urge him to move along and go about his day. However, since one of them is already triggered, the man attacks him with his hard fist. Ain casually dodges the strike, which surprises the man. He then twists the man's arms, making him shriek in pain. The other men recognize his uniform from the Royal Academy. The three of them band together and are about to attack him. They all laugh upon seeing his hesitation, stating that he is now acting all meek. As they are about to attack, suddenly they are all sent to the ground with brute force. Tina slowly walks in his direction, angered by his impulsiveness yet again. She sighs and questions why he always puts himself in danger. The prince explains that he can't help himself meddling and saving the girls. The knight understands this, but also reminds him that he has to prioritize his safety. Now, she has to report to the king what happened. After meeting with the king, Olivia and Tina tease him for surviving yet another reprimand from the monarch. They then ask Queen Larlua of the Dark Elf race to add a few words. However, she honestly thinks that what he did was gallant and heroic, which are perfect qualities of a prince. This dismays Tina a bit, who hopes that she would impart some insightful words to the prince to prevent him from always putting himself in trouble. Instead, she brings her grandson to the treasury vault to present him a gift. To his surprise, she then offers him a dark dagger. It is a perfect gift for him after absorbing Dullahan's magic stone. He hesitates at first about possessing another magical item from the treasury, but his grandmother assures him that as the crown prince, he deserves it. Both Olivia and Larlua convince him to hold the dagger, and so he does. He grasps the weapon and is surprised by how perfectly it fits his hand. Grateful, he smiles at his grandmother and thanks her for the exceptional gift. Seeing his adorable smile, the two women hug him together, completely enthralled by how dashing and captivating he is. Ain proudly shows the dagger to Krone. Smiling warmly at him, she comments that the dagger really suits him. Just then, Katie calls them out, asking for their attention to their important topic at the moment. She sighs and reminds him about the cursed magic stone that he entrusted to her. However, she doesn't have any idea about the stone and how it turned out to be a cursed one. He suggests checking the Royal Kingsland Library, which surprisingly contains various different collections of books. Katie mentions having scoured the books before for another case, but never like this. In that sense, Aang seems to have hit a wall too. Katie casually tells him that he is a useless crown prince. Annoyed, he pulls on her ears, causing her to shriek in pain. Crone stops him from getting physical, and he apologizes, saying they have always been like that. Since she is running out of ideas, she tells him to absorb a little bit of the magic stone. He accuses her of planning this from the start, and she eventually admits to this. She assures him that she'll undo the spell, and if anything happens, she'll destroy the container. Hearing this, Crone seems skeptical about the method's safety, but Aang assures her it's not his first time doing this. Besides, this is the only option they've got right now. With this, Katie undoes Maji's seal. Nothing happens as she does, and so she urges him to hold the magic stone at once. He then slowly grabs the stone, and suddenly, they hear an unfamiliar voice echoing in the heavy air. Katie tells him to put the stone back in the seal, but he is having a hard time doing so. His phantom hands then start to get out of control, much to his shock. Clueless of his dilemma, Katie screams that he put the stone inside instead of activating his phantom hands. Struggling, Aang tries to explain that his body is moving on its own, and none of this is his doing anymore. He tries so hard to stop himself, and Katie does her best to put the stone back in the seal. Finally, they manage to put the stone back inside the seal. The scuffle causes the books to fall over them. As the dust settles, Aang mentions that his body feels incredibly heavy. Katie agrees, since he manifested the phantom hands all at once. However, the two are suddenly stunned and point at his arms. Confused, he looks at his own arm, which transformed into an armored one. The change in his body, after holding the dark stone, shocks all of them. They looked at Aang's arm in shock, wondering why it was clad in armor. Katie asks if he took too much mana, but the boy insists that he just picked it up, before his body moved all on its own. He recalls Meiji saying something about magic stones attracting each other. It only happens between certain crystals, as some keep bonds from their previous lives. For example, the Dullahan's stone and the Demon King's stone are drawn to each other, and used to react violently, as if moving closer on their own. With this, the merchant told him to proceed with caution at all times. It's possible that he felt drawn to the cursed stone, because it carries a strange bond as well. He now looked at the crystal while remembering her words. As voices come from outside, Katie tells him to hide the armor quickly. Crone is instructed to stall Tina, as they'll be in trouble if she sees what they've done. The young lady tried to do as told, saying it was messy, but the vice captain was already pushing her way through the door. She sees the three, all staring at her and acting like there's nothing wrong. Fortunately, the armor vanished in time, and the princess is just scolded for causing trouble again. She's come with a package, apparently meant for Katie. Already having an idea of what it is, the researcher tears through the wrapped box. Her eyes sparkled as they all looked at a book that she's been waiting for months to arrive. Adding that she has another thing in the back room, she asks Tina to take it out. The princess spent an entire year's worth of allowance, and it was obvious from the fancy binding alone. Met with their interest, she smiles and explains that it's a book about the Demon King, written as the greatest work of a famous author. The mention rings in Aang's mind, and Katie wears some fancy gloves to get right into the text. As she flips through the pages, she gasps in shock and worry, and reveals that she can't understand a single word. It's in ancient Elvish, a script only a few living elves are capable of reading. Unfortunately, even Tina, who's lived in the capital too long, will be unable to read it. Taking a look at the photos, Crone notices something and invites Aang to look as well. It's the portrait of a dignified man. The boy is surprised to hear that it's probably Dullahan, who looks very human. In fact, he looks a lot like the prince himself. Wanting to read as well, Katie heads off to find someone that can help, and tells Tina to watch the packages while she's away. Left alone, the knight walked around to keep things in order, then noticed the expensive book that was left out in the open. Considering the price, she wonders what it's about and takes a closer look, and contrary to Katie's words, she reads the rare script on the cover perfectly. Making sure there's no one else there, she continues and flips through the pages to see the portrait of a beautiful lady, also known as the Elder Lick. She realizes that she's overstepping and quickly heads off to deliver the packages, leaving the book there. In the academy, Luke instructs the students to refer to the handout for an event's details. Apparently, there's going to be a competition between academies in the city. It's an annual event to promote camaraderie, and hosts various activities in addition to combat. While Aang is curious who from their class is attending, he's surprised to hear that no one is joining, as the skill gap between first and second years is too wide. It feels rigged to him, especially with the notice coming just a week before the event. With homeroom period over, he goes off to the training grounds on his own. The inside is filled with students working on their combat skills. Ain enters, greeting the instructor and wanting to do his best again today. Rick was there, fully recovered from the injuries and prepared to welcome the boys' challenge. Instead of a duel, he'll be going against a red bison like he usually does. The adult jabs at him playfully, saying he's fighting against something a child shouldn't. Considering their first meeting, he expected things to be awkward at first, but they've become quite casual. Ain prepares the armor around his body and is ready to start. Acting like a decent teacher, Rick confirms that he's good to go one last time. As he taps a few things on the screen, the middle of the arena lights up and conjures an enormous red bison. The creature can't kill students, of course, but the impact is identical to the real thing. Since he's already taken it down before, Ain considers switching things up this time. The huge horn creature charged at him at full speed, but instead of defending or countering, he surprised Rick by letting go of his weapon and catching the bull by the horns. Barehanded, he pushes back and stops the creature several times, his mass in its tracks. Gripping tight and planting his feet into the floor, he uses his brute strength to overturn and topple the enemy to the ground. It sparked above the summoning platform and disappeared. While he pumped his fist triumphantly, Rick smacks the idiotic student hard on his head. It's punishment for trying to stop a red bison's charge head-on. Ain argues that there might be cases like that in emergency situations, so he's told to use his head to avoid ever falling into such a circumstance. Classes end, and he later heads to a cafe to have a relaxing cup of tea with Tina. After whining about the training, he mentions not being involved in the upcoming tournament at all. He's still encouraged to come and cheer for Dill, who will be sparring with the swordsmanship champion. Just then, he notices a bunch of girls entering the cafe, with Crone walking with them in the middle. Their eyes meet and, for some reason, he avoids her gaze and hides his body behind a shrub, earning an annoyed look from the girl. This is brought to his attention, and he reasons that he just moved reflexively. To make things worse, the group sits right behind their table. One of the girls shares that the prince actually saved him from thugs the other day. It's a coincidence that makes the situation worse. Knowing she visits the castle often, the girls ask Crone about the crown prince. Ain's ears are wide open as she starts to speak. She starts by calling him mischievous, but adds that he's kind and thoughtful towards everyone, truly courageous. In fact, being by his side is the thing that brings her the most joy in the world. He blushes from her words, and the girls squeal loudly in thrill. While they fawn over him, he knows that she must be doing this on purpose. Tina offers to stop the embarrassment, but he says he can hold on a bit more. However, Crone takes it a step further and starts to talk about his activities with Katie. He finally interrupts, and she smiles as if already expecting it to happen. Surprised to see him there, the others stand up, and one of them tries to thank him again for saving her the other day. Moving on, he asks Crone if she's heading to the castle later on. Hearing that she is, he extends his hand and politely invites her to head back together if she's available. The explicit invitation is somewhat an apology for hiding from her a few moments earlier. With this, she curtsies and excuses herself from her friends, leaving the two girls stunned by the encounter. Back in the academy, Dill walked through the campus and was about to head home when he suddenly noticed something happening by the gate. He wonders who they are and why they're loitering around the academy. Upon seeing the unfamiliar face of a man, he dropped his bag and immediately chased after the intruder. However, he finds no other people when he turns the corner. Little did he know that they were watching him from above the walls. The day of the tournament has finally come. People roared and cheered as intense battles for swordsmanship, magic, and debate between schools commenced. Ain accompanied Dill and was in awe of the enormous coliseum. Considering the plaza area, it could fit a small castle, no problem. Dill excuses himself to participate and thanks the prince, who says he'll be cheering during his match. Noticing his demeanor, which is far more tense than usual, the boy asks his attendant if he feels nervous by any chance. He's surprised that the prince noticed and feels embarrassed to have shown such an inexperienced and shameful side. Ain contradicts this, actually feeling better after seeing that even he gets the jitters. Asked what he means, he plays and agrees to explain if the young man calls him by his first name, ready to refuse no matter how many times he asks. The escort bows to take his leave. As they part ways, a voice comes from behind, saying she's surprised to see Dill show even a flicker of emotion. It's Tina, who smiles at the prince, glad that the two young men are getting close quite fast. She offers to guide him into the seats, but he wants to swing by the academy first, as he forgot an important pen in the classroom. She accompanies him to the gates, where they momentarily part ways. Ain ran to the room, although the campus feels a lot bigger without all the people around. Just then, something passes through his nose. A mixture of various scents was coming from the cafe terrace. While he's turned away, a bunch of figures move through the shadows. He notices something but just barely misses them. In the elite freshman's room, Slacker sighed in frustration. All the students were supposed to be away, but he had to subdue Lauren, who happened to be picking something up. Asked what he's going to do, the man says he isn't part of the job, so he'll be let go later. However, seeing the student breathe a sigh of relief awakens something in the man. He changes his mind, realizing he can do anything and consider it a reward for the job. Gripping the young one's neck tight, the vampire says he hasn't eaten anything in weeks. Never having tasted a werewolf before, he asks the student for permission. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter what his answer is, since he'll just do whatever he wants anyway. He cackled loudly and bared his fangs, believing they were all alone. Just then, the doors opened. Ain entered, finally seeing the reason why the atmosphere was so off. Lauren shook as he saw the prince, glaring at the vampire and questioning what he was doing to his friend. Seeing the intruder, Slacker wonders what happened to the guards outside. Apparently, Ain knocked them all out when they tried to attack him. The fact that they were defeated by a child does nothing but irk the vampire, who is the kind of person that's annoyed the most by useless people. He scratched his head in frustration, not caring that his sharp nails were wounding his skin. Unfazed by his behavior, Ain encourages him to surrender quietly, but he's had his fill of cages. Since this is the case, the boy takes his blade and charges in, ready to take him on with all he's got. He unleashes a flurry of swings, first freeing his friend from the enemy's grasp. While the prince catches Lauren, Slacker is surprised that he's actually hit and is amused by the boy's speed. Not caring for his praises, Ain demands to know who they are and what their purpose is. They're there on the orders of a noble who holds a grudge against the academy. Unfortunately, that's all the free information he's going to be getting. It's best not to overstay his welcome, as doing so will leave him getting dragged into a mess. The vampire throws a smoke bomb which envelops the entire room. Having worked as an adventurer, Slacker knows to stay sharp, even against young brats. From the thick smoke, a kick hits Ain's side hard and sends him a few meters back. Fighting against a battle-hardened enemy with this visibility leaves him at a disadvantage. He remembers Tina's warning against revealing his power so recklessly. It'd be terrible if any of the enemies saw him right now, but the vampire hurt his friend. Slacker disappeared from his vision and raised his blade to cut the boy apart and drain him dry. He doesn't even get close enough as he's hit with something hard. Not knowing what happened, he's left confused when he sees the phantom hand sprouting from the boy's back. Ain whipped the appendage and tore through the academy's walls, allowing for the smoke to clear out of the room. The vision advantage was blown away, and they could now fight toe-to-toe. Slowly walking forward, the prince places him under arrest for doing something unforgivable to Lauren. Slacker scoffs at the boy, who's becoming too arrogant after landing one hit, saying he's underestimating an adult too much. He takes a broken part of the wall and launches it at the student. Ain breaks it apart with ease, but finds no one in front of him once the rock shatters. Using the flying debris at platforms, the vampire bounced around the room and appeared behind the boy. Done with playing games, he's going right in for the merciless and certain kill. Slacker was going to swing his blade at the boy, but found his hand subdued and wrapped by another phantom hand. Caught completely, he's unable to do anything as Ain unleashes a barrage of hits that strike his body. Infuriated, he questions who the boy is and drops to the ground, unconscious. The prince undoes his power and checks on Lauren's condition, freeing him from the ropes. Asking where the enemies are, he's told that they've all been taken care of for now. As for their purpose, Ain recalls the vampire saying something strange about their employers holding a grudge against the academy. Back then, Dill also said that a man was fired for his problematic behavior and ideology. Lastly, he remembers the mixture of scents he smelled near the terrace. Putting the pieces together, he realizes what's happening and urgently tells Lauren to evacuate to the main gate and call Tina to the terrace. The prince heads off on his own without explaining. He arrives at the campus cafe and says that a fired professor has no right to be lounging around there. In front of him, Magnus, the former professor, sat idly. He greets the crown prince, saying it's an honor for him to know who he is. The boy's hunch was right, as he's the only noble who'd hold a grudge against the school. Asked what he's plotting, the man feigns ignorance, but Ain has already confirmed his sense of smell by coming to the terrace. There's a massive amount of magic stones in the lake, and he's likely going to trigger a magic tool overload and cause an explosion. Being caught makes him smile. The prince has an acquaintance who blows things up, so he's aware of the signs. Magnus is impressed, not expecting him to even notice the bomb. He then goes on about how the academy and the monarchy have become rotten. They're crawling with commoners not worth teaching, and the boundary between nobles and the rest have blurred. He tries to convince the boy to take a stand against such a regime, eager to prove who is truly useless, to his family, the director of the academy, and to Dill, who reported him. His grudge against the young man becomes apparent. Unfortunately, the prince loves Eshtal and his school as they are now, so he'll do everything to protect them. Magnus finds it shameful that they couldn't see eye to eye. After all, the bomb is quite the expensive investment. An explosion is proportional to the quality of magic, and the lake is filled with high-grade stones. It would be enough to blow the entire academy into smithereens. The magic tools overload has already begun, and no one can stop it now. Everything will be destroyed today, and a new Eshtal will be born from the revolution he'll spark. By his hand, Magnus vows to push Eshtal's rebirth into its true and righteous form. Rejecting his ideals and vision, Ain charges in to subdue him, but the former professor takes a bunch of smaller crystals and throws it at him. To the boy's surprise, they suddenly explode to send him far back. They were magic tools that emit powerful shockwaves. He doesn't understand why Magnus was sticking around, as the explosion would kill him too. Assuring him that he won't die, the man says that all the jewels around his body will protect him from the blast. As soon as he heard this, Ain jumped to his range in the blink of an eye and quickly cut the string of jewels around his enemy. They shatter and fall to the ground, just like his brilliant plan. While he tries to send the boy away with more shockwaves, the prince knows he's got him cornered and tells him to surrender. Magnus wasn't done yet, and still had a mountain of things to do. However, he couldn't keep up with his opponent's speed at all. His tools are knocked out of his hand, and a quick strike to the gut knocks the wind out of him. While questioning how he could be so strong, his dreams are put to a stop right there. Ain ties the criminal up and prepares to clean all the loose ends. Ignoring the enemy's warning about trying to disarm the bomb and risking detonation, he dove into the lake and swam deep into the bed. There, he finds a huge box of high-grade magic stones, humming with power as it overloads the tool. Bombs aren't his expertise, but if the stones are the energy source, then his skill should work. He pushes his hand out and proceeds with the decomposition. The stones tasted great on their own, but there are so many mixed together that it's nauseating. Pushing through it, he continues until they all lose their color, and quickly swims up to the surface. He pants and gasps for air, glad that he made it just in time. Just then, Tina came running with a few other guards. The prince is fortunately okay, and just has a slight stomachache. Magnus looked at him, surprised that he even managed to disarm the bomb. However, he still smirked, despite having his grand plan foiled, even chuckling as the knights dragged him away. Ain runs the vice captain through the details of what happened, but stops to think as he's sure that there was something wrong. No matter how powerful the bomb, Magnus's goal won't be achieved just by targeting the academy. If he truly wants a coup, he'd want to kill the nation's VIPs, and today is the perfect day for that. He recalls how the king and crone are already in the arena, and how he, the prince, promised to cheer for Dill during the exhibition match. The grim realization hits him. He says there's more than one bomb and looks at the evil man, who then smiles upon hearing his words. As the nearby surroundings seem to shake, Magnus loudly praised the prince, but said it's already too late. Tina grabs him, demanding to know where he planted the second explosive. There's no time and it's likely in the arena, so Ain gets ready to leave right away. The personal guard wants to handle it herself, but he's the only one who can disarm the bomb. If he runs away now, his family and friends, and even Crone will all die on the spot. His rational argument and unshaken resolve strikes Tina. Despite herself, she decides to let him go, on the condition that she comes with him. Back in the arena, a swordsman hits Dill right in the chest and scores a point for the match. The crowd roared as he raised his arm. Meanwhile, the king's group was watching from above, wondering why the young man seemed to be struggling. It might be because his opponent is his childhood friend, but none of them expected him to have such difficulty. Little did they know that the young man kept looking at the empty seats beside Crone. He was in the middle of a battle, but was thinking about how the prince was nowhere to be found in the arena. Searching for him all around, he remembers Ain's promise to be there and cheer him on. In the middle of his match, he was worried that something might have happened. His opponent strikes as soon as the referee signals, and he barely manages to defend while thinking about his liege. Right outside, the prince and Tina were rushing through the people. The front gate is too crowded, so the bomb is likely planted at the back gate. It's rarely used, and the only thing there is a statue of the first emperor in the garden. Hearing about this, Ain charged in, already certain where it was. While running, a familiar scent enters his nose. It's coming from the bushes around the statue. The bomb was indeed there, but it was already on the brink of exploding. Despite running as fast as he could, he knew he wouldn't make it as the stones were already rattling and flashing with unstable energy. He was about to give up, but Tina wasn't one to do so easily. She casts magic and conjures a powerful gust that shoots him toward the bomb, praying the boy makes it in time. Speeding towards the tool, Ain reached out with a desperate scream. Back in the arena, Dill was still being pushed back by his old friend, who's also asking why he looks so preoccupied with something else. He should focus, or today will be the day he finally beats him. To be crowned as the strongest in the city, he charged in. The young man was starting to panic, but suddenly heard a familiar voice calling his name. Ain and Tina were in the stands, panting hard from running all over the place. The prince looked him in the eye and ordered him to win. This brings Dill back to reality. He apologizes to his friend, as he'll be the one who wins today. Just like that, his vastly superior swordsmanship one-sidedly defeats his opponent. The people stared in shock at the unexpected display, and everyone soon cheered as the referee announced him as the victor of the match. Those who knew him smiled, glad that it all worked out in the end. Dill then walked to the doors to meet Ain, and immediately started worrying as he saw his face and body all scratched up. People celebrated, unaware of the dangers lurking in the sea. In the beautiful castle town of Eshtal, Ain was out shopping with Kron and Tina. As a reward for resolving the incident with Magnus, Silva gave them permission to wander around, and so they happily did. The prince wonders if it's okay to buy so many outfits, and is assured that they all fit him well. Adding on, it'd be troublesome if someone of his position wore something too cheap. The freezing wind suddenly blew, making the boy shiver. Despite all the shopping, he doesn't even have a scarf to combat the cold sea breeze. Hearing him say that it would be handy to have one given the weather, Tina suddenly jots something down on a notepad. Ain brushes it off and notes the beautiful crescent shape of the capital's port. To their surprise, they're told that it's shaped that way because of an attack by monsters. They wonder what kind of monster horde would be strong enough to cause such damage. Even more surprising is that it was actually done by just one monster. Its body dwarfed their massive battleships and commanded the waves itself. Reigning as the true king of the sea was the legendary sea dragon. The name alone makes the children gulp in fear. One beast single-handedly reshaped a continent and took countless lives through its history. With ships sunk regularly and tens of thousands killed, the casualties caused by the dragon are second only to the Demon King. They ask if it's been slain. It has been, but the monster appears roughly once every 100 to 200 years. This means it won't be surprising if it showed up again soon. It was a grim threat. Noticing this, Tina assures them that Eshtal has made leaps and bounds in defense mechanisms specifically for the dragon. They'll protect them and the citizens no matter what. She apologizes for mentioning the serious topic, but it's something they needed to hear about. Moving on, they talk about other shops the two would like to visit before heading back. Kron takes the lead. Knowing Tina's plan, she arranges for the guard to head off on her own, much to her delight. They later head off to a fancy-looking shop, brandishing intricate apparel and accessories. It's apparently one of the queen's favorite spots. While the two ladies went to the second floor, the boy stayed on the first. He quietly calls to the shopkeeper and sheepishly says that there's something he's been meaning to get. Night comes to the royal castle and glasses are raised. A lavish party was happening in the royal palace, with the king and his retainers laughing in a splendid mood. It's the day he takes the most pride in all year. With that said, Olivia and Kron reveal their presence and greet Ain a happy 8th birthday. He receives a pen engraved with the crest of the nation and a fine silver bracelet. His eyes sparkle at the sight of the precious gifts, and the boy thanks the two with all his heart. They then notice the absence of Tina, who hasn't shown herself since the party started. The ladies chuckles at the situation, knowing just how shy the vice captain is. To help her out, they encourage the prince to step out to the balcony for a bit. He wonders why all of a sudden, but they just wink and tell him to go ahead already. Having no choice but to do as told, he heads out and is met with the chilling cold of the evening snowfall. Just then, a familiar voice calls from behind, saying it's quite the coincidence. Standing there was Tina, who was all red, with her hands behind her back. She says she's been assisting Martha with something all day, but is told that the attendant is at the party instead of working. While he doesn't know what's going on, he's aware of how terrible she is at lying. Flustered, the knight struggles to find the right words. Her shy nature was still getting in the way. Ain looked at her in confusion, and finally, she managed to wrap his exposed neck in a thick and soft scarf. Their faces turn red as she greets him a happy birthday. Wondering where she got the idea, he remembers her actions earlier when he mentioned needing a scarf for the season. Again, he's caught on to the truth behind the extra shopping trip before heading home. Never having given anyone a gift before, she spent all day sneaking around and waiting. The vice captain whines as he chuckles at her sincerity, but he says it's because they're actually quite similar. Ain hands her a gift, adding that he bought it from the same shop. His attendant opens it up and finds a beautiful necklace. He bought gifts for Olivia and Kron as well, but he wanted to give hers first, as she's helped him the most. She tries to decline at first, so he basically uses his position to make her accept it. In return, he promises to wear the scarf every day. When talking to her, he's so comfortable that the teasing just naturally slips out. Nonetheless, she can't help but smile brightly while looking at the necklace in her palms. Her face is red as the sunset, but she argues that it's just from the cold. On a small island, Ain ran as fast as he could, chasing after a weak slime monster. Successfully leading it to a certain direction, he signals Butts, a classmate who leaps from above to cut the target's escape path off. With one swing, he defeats the monster and earns praise from the prince. When he charmingly boasts about his magnificent moves, another boy named Leo chimes in, saying the prince did all the hard work. The friends bicker and laugh. They've come to a remote island near the continent as part of a school event. A month ago, Luke informed them of an excursion that will be held after the new year. Hearing this, Ain wondered if they were slacking off a bit too much, so the instructor corrected those carrying wrong impressions about their trip. Classes 1 and 2 will merge to form groups, which will traverse an island in 3 days. The most important part is that there are real monsters on the island. With food, drinks, magic items prohibited, they'll have to procure their own meals. After granting them permission to form groups, Luke dismisses the class and heads out. Ain is a bit surprised about the survival training and worries about getting other members. Just then, Lauren appeared and invited him to the party they have today. Fortunately, getting close wasn't a big problem for the friendly students. Now, they were traversing across the island as tasked. The professor scared a lot of them, but this should be easy with top students of the academy. Dill appears as an escort and warns them against letting their guards down. This doesn't seem to work, as Butts was still way too confident and hyped. Since it's getting dark, they decide to prepare and make camp for the night. Leo takes over the responsibility. Throwing a coin onto the ground, he makes a shape with his hands and summons a barrier to protect them. As usual, they're impressed by the skill that can at least keep the monsters on the island away. They already have rabbits hunted along the way as food, and all that's left to do is find water. There wasn't a single spot with potable water, and everything was a muddy puddle. Since they at least have that, Lauren offers to purify it with his magic tool. Dill steps in, reminding them that magic items are prohibited from being brought in, but the wolfkin just says that he can make the tool on the spot. He tinkers with the mana vectors of the magic stones, converting them into purification magic. Now, he asks them to put the stones in the muddy puddles. They all gasp in awe, as the dirty water turns clean in an instant. It tastes better than most, since he even added mineral components. Dill says such a feat isn't supposed to be possible, let alone done so easily. Thinking about how he and Butts handle the frontline battles, and are provided with rear support by Leo and Lauren, Ain can't help but smile. They might actually be a great team. Just then, the fiery student takes something out of his bag, saying he found them nearby. It's a bunch of oddly colored fruits, obviously poisonous. Leo confirms that they do seem to be edible fruits. However, there should be a toxic look-alike, and they don't have a way of identifying which is which. Looking at them closely, Ain reached out, knowing his skill must be able to remove the poison completely. He glows with power and tries to activate his decomposition, but the fruits don't react at all. As such, he announces that they're the kind that's safe to eat. Not wanting to reveal his ability, the prince says he read about it somewhere. Their older escort just smiled at their teamwork. With all that's said and done, they start to prepare for dinner, and a rabbit is roasting above a fire in no time. Seeing the delicious meal, they invite Dill to join, but he says he has his own rations and doesn't need to be invited. Ain insists, saying more of the food will go to waste if he doesn't help finish it. Although momentarily flustered by his words, the escort gives in to the prince's instructions and joins their meal. In this case, he has something for them as well, and takes out a bag of tea leaves. Strictly speaking, it's against the rules of the excursion, but it's also an annual tradition the academy turns a blind eye to. While Butts questions the point of following the rules in the first place, the others take him up on the offer, and agree to enjoy themselves a little. Then, proceeding to gossip, the boy reveals that Leo's fiancée has been chosen. It elicits a strong reaction from everyone, and they ask to know more about the lady. Ain fakes his tears, pretending to be hurt as he wasn't told right away. Just like that, the night deepened and they shared warm conversations by the campfire. Soon enough, morning comes, and it's time to continue with their mission. Since the fog is especially thick, they're warned against trailing away from each other. The small group sticks close to each other, but the fog grows even denser, and they can't even see their feet. While Lauren should be able to create a magic tool to clear it up, he can't do it right now, and regrets not training more for times like these. As he takes another step, his foot doesn't hit the ground and he feels himself falling. Ain barely catches and saves him from falling into a deep cliff, which would have certainly led to an untimely death. Fortunately, he seems to be okay for now. Since the fog is turning out to be much worse than expected, the prince advises Dill to be careful, but the escort was nowhere to be found. While he looked around and called out, desperate to find him, Butts notices something and suddenly tells his comrade to stop. Aang questions it at first, but then realizes why he was being told to stop. The two are immediately on guard, frustrated that they missed them. The backliners are told to stick close. Around them, ominous figures appeared from the thick fog. Butts couldn't believe it. It was a group of crow butterflies, which shouldn't even exist on the island. They all get ready for a new and troublesome battle. Facing an unexpected enemy, the support members ask how strong the butterflies are exactly. They're weaker than the red bison. Aang usually fights on the platform, but the problem is that they hunt and overpower prey in swarms. The prince is ready to use the phantom hand if necessary, but he puts it off for now. Cutting through the tense atmosphere, the monsters strike first and send long appendages at the humans. They're blocked for now, and the others are warned that being hit will end up with them paralyzed and hosts for the enemy's eggs. They have to escape before getting surrounded, so the frontliners provide cover. After spending a long time running as fast as they could, the group manages to lose the swarm and take cover. Aang is scolded for shouting so loudly and putting everyone at risk. He apologizes, saying he lost his cool after worrying so much over Dill. That said, their escort is the strongest in the academy, so he should be okay. It was an abnormal situation, where monsters that shouldn't be on the island are appearing. Tina is away on business, and it's unlikely that she's guarding them from the shadows, so they have no choice but to keep moving away from the mist. They're around halfway across the island, and there should be adults at the destination. As such, they decide to take a quick break before resuming to cover as much ground as possible. The group runs as fast as possible later on, helping each other along the way and hiding from the butterflies at every corner. Hours pass and everyone has reached their limit from fighting and running all day. Aang suggests camping at a nearby cave, thinking it's safer, but Butts notices the purple gravel at the entrance, indicating miasma. It's a substance toxic to monsters and humans not naturally living there. While the prince ponders over this, the others are impressed by how much the young man knows about monsters. The campfire keeps the sleeping student lit and warm. While stoking the flames on his own, Aang questions how someone like Dill got separated from them so easily. Warren confirmed the safety of the trip, so such dangerous enemies shouldn't be there. It's not that the island is strange, it's the entire situation they're in. Left alone to his thoughts, he gets an idea and spends the night thinking about it. As usual, he's struck with brilliance and looks out into the woods, certain he has an understanding of it. The prince gently nudges Lauren awake, asking for a moment. There's something he'd like to ask the wolfkin, who earlier made a tool that can store water for them to bring. Confirming that it should be able to store other things, like miasma for example, he asks to borrow it and encourages the comrade to go back to sleep. With the tool in his hand, he carries his idea out on his own. Morning comes, and the group finds themselves being chased by the butterflies again. They were relentless and kept trying to catch the humans, even attacking as soon as the sun came up. Just then, Aang called to Leo, wanting to talk about something while running. Leo is surprised as he's asked if his barrier can block poison. He's confused, but says it should work for about 10 minutes if needed. Satisfied with that much, Aang stopped and turned on his own, telling the others to listen to him. While the others question what he's doing, the prince just orders him to summon the barrier right then and there. The young man is surprised for a moment, but snaps into it and asks that they stall and give him time to prepare. With this, the frontliners do their job and hack at the butterflies. Butts is told that the idea came from something he said yesterday. The unexpected statement catches him off guard, so much so that he fails to defend against the tail that wrapped around his body. Fortunately, Aang was already on it, and killed the monster targeting him. He was fine, except for a few numb limbs. Apologizing for keeping them waiting, Leo activates his ability and summons a small protective barrier around them. They were safe. The students fell to the ground, relaxing and panting for now. Satisfied with his work, Aang tells them to drink some water and leave things to him. Asked where he's going, he gives a confident wink and smile, saying he'll take care of the enemies alone. With this, he jumped out of the barrier's safe zone and baited the monsters to come at him. The entire swarm responds by flying towards the royal, making his companions scream out in worry. Instead of panicking, he does something reckless as usual, and breaks Loran's tool to release a thick plume of miasma. It was potent enough to disintegrate the plants around them. One by one, the butterflies also dropped to the ground, lifeless from the poison. Amid it all, a long figure stood tall, unaffected by the miasma. The students looked on in shock, unable to believe that Aang was smiling at them without a single graze on his body. They run to the prince and wonder how he's okay, even after soaking in all those toxins. Left without much of a choice, he reveals his resistance to such elements. This allows them to breathe a sigh of relief, but still asks that he refrain from pulling such stunts. He gets right back to business and says they should keep going. As he said, they proceed without much trouble, and don't encounter any other monsters. The group sees the sea soon enough and reaches the cape a few steps later. To the three students' surprise and disbelief, they find both Dill and Tina waiting for them in perfect health. The young man kneels and bows to his liege, praising him for getting rid of the swarm while still utilizing his team members' strengths. As Aang guessed, the king and prime minister set this up to foster his growth. They received the consent of his classmates' families and remained hidden for emergencies. Unlike his usual self, the prince sternly addressed Dill, asking if he knew how much he worried him. The three are surprised by his demeanor, and so is the young warrior, who reasons that it was all for his sake. Aang warns that he'll come to save him should anything like this ever happen again. Dill refuses to behave, saying he's the prince's guard. Aang says he isn't mature enough to keep things strictly professional, nor does he want to be. With an unwavering gaze, he orders the young man to promise that he won't do that again. This silences him. Realizing just how much distress he caused, Dill kneels back down and apologizes. The boy regains his bright tone and tells the guard to call him casually if he wants to make it up. Already expecting the rejection, he walks away with a shallow sigh. After a moment of thought, the older boy says using his name as an apology would be disrespectful. As such, he would just like to put in a personal request. Holding his chest, he politely but casually asks his lord for their continued time together. Aang freezes with his mouth open, and he can't help but stutter from the unexpected sentiment. Even Tina and the other students have to chuckle at the situation. Laughing, the prince says he was caught off guard by the smooth line. He forgives the guard for everything, but only for today. Their bond grew with this exchange, and now it was time for the students to celebrate their success. With the excursion over, the only thing left to do was head back to the royal capital in triumph. Looking over the sea on the deck, Aang confirms that Tina was watching them the entire time in the forest. She was using a magic tool to stay hidden, and was genuinely surprised when their eyes met. The boy reveals that he noticed a familiar scent, mixed with the aura of the butterflies. Their conversation is cut short, as the battleship shakes violently. As the knight takes cover and immediately protects her young master, another soldier reports that there's a monster out in the sea. It was an enormous kraken, which has no business being in that part of the water. Tina orders her men to ready the cannons and prepare for an attack, but she suddenly freezes and turns grim. Aang is confused by the sudden shift, until they both see something pierce through the enormous kraken's body. Still shocked, they have to hold their ground from the waves that crash into the ship, although the boy's eyes are still fixed on the sea. A single strike tore a hole through the monster that was bigger than their entire vessel. It had great fins, proportional to its massive body, and long, sharp fangs that could crush a boat in a single bite. A gigantic whirlpool forms in the sea as it dragged its prey to the center to prevent it from escaping. Tina couldn't believe it. Right before their eyes, the legendary sea dragon was tearing the kraken apart. It roared loudly, making the sea tremble and nearly breaking the humans' eardrums. The vice captain orders her people to leave the waters at full speed, as they have to escape while the dragon is occupied with eating the kraken. With this, they sailed through the sea as fast as possible, hoping for the best. Tina was already holding him, but Aang couldn't help but hold his own body, trembling as he met the king of the ocean for the very first time. The dragon did not pursue their ship. Word of the incident reached the capital, but months passed without another sighting of the creature. Life has been calm since the sighting, and the days were filled with training and official duties. Eventually, a year and a half of peace passed. Classes ended, and the prince's friends bid him farewell today as well. Promising to see them tomorrow, Aang, now 9 years old, smoothly advanced to his 3rd year. Tina fetches him with praise as she usually does. He still has a lot of lessons at home, and she won't allow any personal detours. Seeing him sigh in resignation, she notices something and leans in close to fix his crooked tie. Having her face inches away from his makes him blush, and the tie fixing fortunately doesn't take too long. As they started to head back home, a couple of guards called to her from behind. They were winded from running as fast as they could, and quietly whispered something to the vice captain. Unable to hide her expression for a moment, she stands in attention and says she'll be on her way. She feigns a smile and apologizes to the prince, saying something urgent has come up. Turning and walking away, she looks back to him one last time, and repeats her warning about taking no detours for the day. When he sees her run off, Aang calmly but sternly demands an explanation from the knights, even ordering them to speak without any sidetracking. They kneel and, unable to disobey the crown prince, explain that the sea dragon resurfaced, and that Tina was called to confront it. The enemy was a national-level threat. As soon as he reaches the main castle, he orders everyone to tell him where the king is. A quick scan around gives him a gist of the situation. There were a few knights there, and everyone's faces were grim. Aang barged into a room, announcing his return, and saw the conference hall filled with important personalities, including Silva and Olivia. The young man urgently asks what happened to Tina, so the king remains calm and decides to proceed with the meeting. While the prince questions what's happening, Warren explains that the sea dragon has reappeared, just by the offshore waters. He grit his teeth upon confirming his worries. They spent a year and a half preparing after the first sighting, so why was everyone panicking? Unfortunately, something extremely abnormal has happened. The Prime Minister reveals that there are actually 2 dragons this time. He couldn't believe it, and the image of the kraken being torn apart flashed in his mind. Such a terrifying threat, and now there were 2 of them. It's unprecedented, and if they don't act fast, the nation will become nothing but wreckage. This is why Tina, a master of high-level command, was sent to lead the subjugation. Ain was furious, and questioned why they'd send just one person on such a dangerous mission. The king is trying to calm down Ain. He assures him that he has deployed every available force, including the royal fleet, 90% of the royal knights, and a request for adventurer cooperation. In this crisis, Lloyd and the remaining knights must protect the castle and the capital. Right now, they have to trust Tina and leave everything to her. He clenched his hand tight but believed that his grandfather is right. However, that doesn't mean that he can accept everything that happened. The terror of the sea dragon is still burned into his mind, and his legs shake every time he remembers what happened. He starts trembling and feels scared that he wants to run away. But he should not give in to his fear now. He remembers all his moments with Tina, and with resolve, he faced his grandfather. Indeed, he fears the sea monster, but there's something even more frightening for him right now. Resolute, he states that he is going to Manga to fight the sea dragon. This shocked both the king, Lloyd, and Olivia. The king called his grandson a fool for even thinking of putting himself in danger. Lloyd steps in and tells him that since he is the crown prince, his body is no longer his alone. However, he still pushed for it and believed that the first king would also make the same choice. He insists that he can't just wait there in silence. Olivia interjects and agrees with everyone, saying that she can't let Ain go to such a dangerous place. However, even after hearing his mother's plea, the prince is still resolved to go to Manga and find Tina. The king sighs and settles himself on his throne. Ain takes it as a sign that he finally relents, but Lloyd hits him at the back of his head, and he slowly loses consciousness. The king had to resort to violence, since stopping him is pointless. Lloyd then carries the prince. The king apologized for giving him some unpleasant task, but the servant answers that it's still part of his duty. Suddenly, Olivia snatched away her son from Lloyd's grasp, and gave her father a word for using violence on her son. The king orders Martha to take Olivia away to her room, and Ain to Katie's workshop. Olivia screams for her son, while the king made his orders clear to keep Ain, and never let him out without his permission. They must keep him contained and not let him head to Manga. Loud bangs can be heard from Katie's workshop. Ain is violently pounding on the door, pleading for someone to open up. He tries to use his phantom hands and break the door, but his power won't come out no matter how he tries. He grits his teeth in frustration every time he remembers that there are 2 sea dragons out in the sea, and that Tina and the others are still waiting for rescue. Katie tells him to calm down, since the room is currently under a powerful seal that nullifies magic. However, this will not be easy to break, since he would need the power of the Demon King to break the seal. She understands what he feels, but right now, they have to trust Tina and the others. Aang can't help his frustration since he feels powerless and prays to God to give him power to save everyone. He hears the mysterious voice again and guides him to look at the room closely. The voice urged him again and focused to scan the things inside. He then noticed the cursed magic stone on the table near them. Katie noticed him and is shocked when he makes his way to the table. She runs after him as he tries to open the seal. With a regretful look in his eyes, he apologized to Katie since he's about to cause her trouble. As soon as he grasps the stone, his phantom hands are soon activated. Katie is shocked since he can use his power inside the sealed room. The first princess is trying to convince him to let go of the stone since it's dangerous for him. Suddenly, she feels her body frozen and she can't move. Meanwhile, Aang can feel someone embracing him and feels like he is being embraced by a mother's warmth. Katie is shocked that he managed to absorb the entirety of the cursed magic stone. She reprimands him for doing something so dangerous and reckless. She tries to stop him from breaking the seal of the room. She is in disbelief by how much power he gained that he was able to break the seal. Aang then opens the door and lets himself out and turns a deaf ear to Katie's pleas. Just then, someone greets him. Aang is surprised to see Crone outside the room, as if knowing that he'll eventually free himself. She knows that even if she begs him not to go out, he will still go. Aang walks past her with determined eyes, promising that he will come back alive. Crone calls to him and kisses him on the cheek. While he gets flustered, she wished that the goddess bless him and bring him back safe. He looks at her with a warm smile and runs to exit the castle. As soon as he turns his back to her, Crone's tears start to flow. She begs the heavens to bring him back safe. Aang nears toward escape, but Lloyd appears with the other knights, intending to stop him from leaving. When asked where he is going, he tells them that he is just taking a stroll down to the harbor. Lloyd unleashed a terrifying gush of energy which breaks the castle's floor, which scares the knights. Determined, Lloyd towers over the prince and tells him that he can't allow him to leave the castle. Aang still refuses. With this, Lloyd unsheathes his sword and is about to use force against him when the prince unleashed a powerful attack. Suddenly, Lloyd stops moving, and same with the knights. Lloyd figures that the prince used a binding spell strong enough to restrain him. It seems like the prince has gained another strong power. As Aang walks past him, he reminds the prince that his decision will be a burden to many. Despite this reminder, Aang still runs past him. He then forces himself out of the seal with just sheer strength. He tells the knights that once Aang gets out of the castle, they'll be free to move again. He is still trembling after the incident and smirks, commenting that their prince is truly a remarkable man. Finally, he reached the castle's exit, breathing hard. He can't believe that it was that big all this time. He wonders if he should keep running or find a horse somewhere. Suddenly, Dill appears out of nowhere with a horse and offers to accompany him to his destination. Aang will be unstoppable anyway, so he has decided to be his guard. The prince worries that he will be trouble if he does so, but Dill plans to devote himself to his safety. He wishes to serve him, and in turn serve the kingdom of Eshtal as well. However, if ever he would be dismissed, he would be honored if the prince would hire him directly. They start to ride together, and Dill informs him that they can make it to the White Rose station. From there, they will take the special royal water train, which is the only route and transportation they can take. However, they are worried that they won't be permitted to go through since the king ordered that the prince shall not go to Magna. Hearing this, the prince wonders what he should do. If they take more time, he worries that Tina and the others will be put in grave danger. With this, Dill tells him that he can create a royal decree. It is an absolute command that only royalty like him can make. As the crown prince, he could overwrite the king's standard orders. However, it would be reviewed by the council, and if they found it improper, he would be punished for it, and he would be exiled from the royal family. After hearing the consequences from his own mouth, Dill cannot recommend using it. He suggests that they think of another less risky way. However, Aang replies that they don't have time to hesitate, and so he resolves to create a decree and use the water train. He thanks Dill for telling him, and the guard just sighs after he gave a risky idea to the prince. Later, they finally boarded the water train and are on their way to Magna. Meanwhile, on Magna, Tina is still leading the knights, annihilating the water serpent monster. She grits her teeth in frustration since half of their forces are already lost. After managing to wound the serpent, they are still struggling to ultimately defeat it. If they drag this on, they will be left with no resources and they will surely be dead. Just then, the sea serpent begins to surface again. Tina commands all the units to attack again. They prepare the cannon and the magicians attack all at once. They manage to injure the serpent again. Seeing it shriek in pain, Tina commands them to attack once again. The cannon fires, and they directly hit the sea monster. They finally strike the magic stone lodged in its forehead, which shocks the crew. The knights celebrate that they have finally shattered the mana stone. However, Tina reminds them that there are still other serpents in the sea, so they should not let their guard down. As she orders them to stay in combat formation, the serpent attacks them and sinks its fangs into the cannon and destroys it. This causes the waves to devour them and topple over the warships. Even with its stone shattered, it can do this in its death throes. Even though, in disbelief, she tries to find the other sea monster. Just then, the monster she is looking for appears behind her. She whips her head to the serpent's direction, and all she can think about is the prince's smile. Determined to see him again, she unsheathes her sword and prepares to take a leap and strike. To her surprise, as mist forms around the serpent, making her stop in her tracks. Shocked beyond comprehension, Tina frantically asks what is going on. She does not immediately understand. Aang explains that he used his thick fog skill to block the vision of the sea monster. Tina clarifies that this is not what she meant and repeats the question of why he is here. She then tells him to return to the capital right away. However, using his power and influence as the prince of the nation, he orders everyone to bow to him and follow his will to fight the sea serpent himself. He commands them to support from the rear. Worried, Tina asks if he understands what invoking a royal decree means. He looks at the knight with determined eyes and states that defying an order from the crown prince is forbidden and that she should follow his commands. Tina recognizes his determined eyes, and every time he looks resolute, she knows that it will be hard to convince him to back down. Aang commands Dill to protect the ships while he fights the serpent. Just then, the monster lunges at the ship's direction. He activates his phantom hands and attacks the monster. Their powers clash, causing a huge explosion in the middle of the sea. The impact results in a strong gush of wind that almost sends the force out of the ship. Tina shouts for the crown prince to be safe. Aang gives his all in that attack, and manages to stop the monster much to the shock of Tina and the others. The prince smirks since all that hard training with the bison finally paid off. The phantom hands pierce the serpent, making it shriek with pain. He then leaps on the monster's head, frantically searching for the location of the magic stone. Upon securing its location, he then commands his phantom hand to suck the power of the magic stone. The monster finally collapses, but Aang is injured. Underwater, Aang can't believe that the serpent still has the energy to fight. Since it is a legendary monster, its magical stone expectedly is hard to drain. With this, Aang has no other choice but to fight the monster even underwater. He tries to resist the onslaught of the sea serpent while draining all its power. His time is ticking as his own mana starts being drained to its limit. He can feel that his strength is starting to fade away, and his magic almost gone. As he begins to sink, he remembers that he has another source of power in the form of the serpent's core he just absorbed. He pumps the raw power into his system and turns it into the magic strength that he needs. As he sinks deeper to the seabed, he absorbs more magic from the serpent and makes it his own source of power. His body starts to tremble from the strong, raw current of power within him. Because of this, he slowly loses consciousness, but as the coldness of the dark water claims him, he remembers those who are waiting for him at home and pushes himself more. His ruby necklace then activates and emits a glowing light. He then uses his dark dagger and impales the sea serpent with it. The impact finally breaks the magic stone, but as soon as he finishes the enemy, Aang collapses. Meanwhile, back on the ship, the serpent's dying roar is heard. Dil recognizes the sound and looks at Tina, but only finds her armor on the dock. Later, the people start celebrating upon the defeat of the sea serpents. Tina manages to save Aang just in time before he completely drowns, but cries as she holds her prince in a badly injured state. Aang is lying on the bed and now conscious. He awkwardly smiles at his two servants and tries to talk lightly about his injuries. Tina is mortified while Dil is in disbelief by how nonchalant the prince is. He continues to downplay his injuries, sharing that he can hardly feel his arms but is grateful that they're still intact. Tina finally bursts out and tells him that he should not take his wounds lightly, to which Dil agrees. Aang tells them that he is just grateful to be alive after struggling to defeat the sea serpent. He comments that maybe luck is on his side after all. Tina points out the necklace on his chest and states that the ruby necklace that Warren gave him broke. She reveals that the gem activates when its wearer is in grave danger since its use is to protect them. Since it activated, it means that he was close to dying. Tina then starts to ugly cry, much to the surprise of Aang. Aang panics and is clearly confused on what to do and seeks help from Dil. However, Dil dismisses his request and clearly doesn't want to get involved. Aang holds Tina's hand, who keeps on crying. In between her sobs, she tells him not to endanger himself like that again. With a solemn look on his face, Aang apologizes to her. He then excitedly tells her that the taste of the magic stone was delightfully delicious and tastes like ocean bliss. They can't believe that he managed to smile and blurt out about the taste of the magic stone that fast. She laughs at his quirkiness. Just then, a knight reports to them that their ship will soon reach the royal capital. Tina helps him stand up and walk back to the main hall. Meanwhile, Dil contemplates that once they reach the capital, he will soon face punishment for going against the king's order. Right now, all that's important to him is that he was able to help and support the prince. He doesn't regret his actions, but at least he was able to stand by his side, and he is proud of that. The prince stands on the dock and they alight the ship. Warren greets him and helps him get into the carriage. He also informs him that the king is waiting for him at the castle. With a resolute face, he agrees with Warren. Later, at the castle, Aang faces the king together with Lloyd and Warren. In his serious tone, the king states that he had so much to ponder when the prince left against all his orders. However, he has to say that his grandson is incredible for defeating the sea serpent. Everyone then cheers for his achievement beyond measure. The dragon's corpse alone is worth 20 years of their national budget, and the fact that the prince single-handedly defeated one of the two sea serpents. Aside from this, the people of Magna are rejoicing and now deeply respect the prince for saving them from the monster. He also brought back over half the strike force alive, including Tina. The king continues to praise him for his excellent work, saying that what he did was splendid. However, despite his achievements, his recklessness caused some bad consequences, like how he destroyed the royal water train and the Glacier family ship. In addition to this, he also heard that someone joined him on his trip. Dil then steps up and reveals himself. Lloyd asks his son if he knows what will happen next. Dil confirms, since he has prepared himself for the consequences of his actions. Aang then interjects and tries to protect Dil, invoking his royal authority to save his guard from punishment. He is willing to even face the consequences. Dil tries to stop him, but the prince is determined to fight for him. Seeing them, Lloyd begs on his knees and also takes responsibility for the fault. He insists that the fault lies with him, since he failed to stop Aang from leaving. He begs that he gets punished instead. The king sighs and then laughs at the sight of them. He states that he has no heart to punish Dil, so they can be at ease. If his grandson invoked a royal decree, Dil bears no guilt about it. He is just grateful that he has stayed loyal to his grandson and prioritized his safety. Ain kneels and accepts the king's decree as he commands his punishment to be 2 months of confinement. Grateful for his mercy, Ain accepts the punishment wholeheartedly. Meanwhile, Lloyd is relieved of his marshal post and rewarded to be the king's personal guard. Tina is promoted as the new marshal. After the king sorted it all out, he feels nothing but exhaustion. Ain almost breathes a sigh of relief when Warren warns him not to be so relaxed yet. He reminds him that they're not sure yet what kind of punishment from Olivia and Crone he will receive. The people in the hall laugh at his predicament. Later, Ain walks quickly in the hallway. He then finally sees Crone crying alone while looking at the sea. She tries to wipe her tears and tells him that she knew that he would keep his promise to her. He gives her a warm smile and she begins to get emotional once more. She leans closer to him and he apologizes to her again. While wiping her tears, she asks if he has seen his mother yet. He answers that he has not yet. She advises that he go and see his mother right away since she is in a rough state. Later, he knocks at his mother's room. When no one answers, he lets himself in and is shocked to see a huge tree inside the room. Just then, Olivia frantically crawls out of the roots, happy that her son is already home. Confused about what's happening, he asks what's happening and why the room is full of tree roots. Embarrassed, she tells him not to look since she lost control worrying about him. He figures that this is dyad nature activating. She grasps her son's face and checks his condition, worried for him. After feeling his mother's touch, he suddenly cries nonstop, unable to stop his tears, and just now realizing the struggle he went through and relief. With this, she hugs her son tighter and reminds him that there's nothing to fear or worry about and that he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. He cries some more now, feeling safe in his mother's embrace. Later, Katie is checking up on Ain's condition and calls him reckless for absorbing the cursed forbidden stone. After checking his injuries, she then dismisses him after finishing the treatment for today. Feeling revitalized, he states that he feels much better and he can manage to eat on his own. Hearing this, Tina volunteers to take care of the prince until he is completely healed. Katie agrees with this since the prince likes to put himself in danger. With this, she asks for his status card, wanting to know what kind of changes he underwent after absorbing all the magic stones. He fishes out the card from his pocket, forgetting to check it before. They all check the card and see incredible numbers in it. They are shocked, but it all makes sense since he absorbed both the cursed stone and the sea serpent stone. However, he is kind of disappointed since he expects that the stats would be even higher. Katie calls him ridiculous for expecting too much, adding that his numbers right now are insane already. He asks what the named status on his card is. She answers that it is actually a monster-type job that he acquired after defeating the sea serpent. He also gained all the sea monster skills. Confused, he also asks about the archmage type he gained. Katie is surprised to hear this, since the skill belongs only to the mightiest witch monsters that command lost arts of ancient magic. With this, they discover that the cursed stone was originally from witches. However, Tina points out that a witch skill is just mage, but it says archmage. That means it was an elder lich. Katie asks why she knows about it and she reveals that she saw Katie's ancient book had an elven script in it and looked at it without permission. She apologized to her terribly. Frustrated, Katie screams that she should have told them from the start that she knew how to read it. She almost breaks down because of this, since she has been working non-stop only to discover that someone who knows how to read elven script is just within her reach. Frantic, she now asks Tina what the book says about the elder lich. She points out in the book the elder lich and translates for them that she was married to Dullahan and aided the Demon King during the war, ultimately being the foundation of the demon realm. They are surprised to hear that the two magic stones were actually married. Katie notices that the weapon in the book also resembles Ain's dagger. Tina reads the book and deems that the dagger also belonged to the elder lich herself. She carved a piece of her own core to forge it. In the book, it is also revealed that she handed the weapon to her husband. The dagger's power rivaled even the Demon King's strike. This is the reason why the weapon could stand a chance to finish off the sea serpent back then. Katie now understands that it was Dullahan and his wife's power contained in the magic stones. Ain contemplates about having married couples' magic stones. He recalls the time when he absorbed them and feels warmth inside his body when the two magic stones finally were brought back together. Just then, someone knocks at the door and looks for Tina. Crone comes in and thinks that she interrupted Ain's treatment. Tina asks what she needs from her. The August Company has sent a messenger from the harbor, where they're dismantling the dragon. They're asking for Tina and Lloyd to come to the site right away. Crone hesitates to say the reason, then surprises everyone by revealing that an egg was found from the dragon corpse. They all quickly make their way to the port, where everyone was still busy processing the huge monster. Graf was in the middle of leading it all when he saw the two people followed by a group of knights. Lloyd apologizes for keeping him waiting, but the old man just thanks them for sparing their time. Ain pops up from behind, brightly confirming if they really did find an egg. The marshal frankly can't judge for himself, but it'd be better for them to take a look regardless. Leading the way, the old trader lifts a thick blanket and takes everyone by surprise. There are two large eggs, and the silhouettes of dragon-like creatures can be seen clearly. Just then, the shells unexpectedly began to crack and break. As Tina immediately ordered her men to draw their swords, they raise their blades with bated breaths. No matter what happens, Ain is to be kept at a distance from the creatures. He calms them down, knowing how much they distrust him in such cases. The two heads of the military get ready to strike as the cracks spread throughout the eggs. After the first blue spike breaks through the shell, two cute and small dragon babies happily squeal, greeting the outside world. Everyone is stunned, especially as they helplessly plop across the wooden planks of the port, struggling to even keep themselves upright. Naturally speaking, there was no reason to spare future threats, but Ain questioned if they really were going to do that to such weak creatures. However, there was no such hesitance in the mind of one warrior. Lloyd stood over them, his hand on the handle of his sword. Despite just being born, the dragon shivered in fear, already knowing his intention. The entire scene was unpleasant in many ways, so Ain asked him to wait. Before they could do anything, he walked toward the hatchlings without a hint of fear in his mind. Crouching down to meet the trembling and tearful babies, he flashes a warm smile that's reassuring enough to make them squeal in joy again. To everyone's surprise, hatchlings of what might be the most dangerous creature happily embrace the nation's prince. He guesses that they see him as their parent, since he absorbed the sea dragon's magic stones. The heads of the military have the power to end them in a single breath. In fact, even the castle knights could handle them while they're in this state. With that said, Ain asks to be given just one day before they execute the threats. That's all the time he needs to get his grandfather's permission to keep them. In the royal castle's back areas, Ain and Crone sat together by a small stream. There, the two dragon hatchlings gobbled a pile of magic stones up. He watched, delighted by how strong their appetite was. It took a lot of effort to get the king's permission to keep them, but things worked out. The little blue brother is Al, and the older one is his sister, Elle. They both smiled adorably, as Crone fed them another stone each. Meanwhile, Ain couldn't help but stare at the pure, and almost maternal, vibe that came as she took care of them. Noticing him blushing, she asks if there was something wrong. He tries to brush it off, but she already has an idea of what might be the reason. To his confusion, she hands him a magic stone, saying that it must have made him hungry to see the siblings eat their fill. He laughs and plays along, exclaiming over how delicious the crystal smells. Later at night, Silva asks his grandson how his arm is doing. He waves it around, proudly saying that he's well enough to resume sword training. The boy adds that he's capable of brushing his own hair, but Olivia rejects it, saying she's doing it because she wants to. As expected, even the hero who slayed the sea dragon is no match for his mother. There are more important things to discuss, so the king notes that his suspension is nearly up, and there's a royal duty waiting for him. He is tasked with heading to Yahello as the king's envoy. The sea crystal trade Olivia brought from the nation has been great so far. As the stones are vital for Ishatrika's tools, there is no other country more important. If Silva goes personally, it'd cause too much of a stir, so the crown prince will be sent instead. Warren will help with negotiations, while Tina and Dill will lead the royal knights as escorts. The entourage is reassuring, but the boy worries about weakening the castle defenseless. While the king agrees that this is a valid concern, what worries him more is the risk of Ain doing something reckless, like he always does. With his first official mission abroad, the prince feels the weight of carrying the king's name. That said, he can't help but feel excited and eager to do well. In another part of the castle, Katie was in her room. While Tina slept, she was busy reading through the contents of her ancient book, and stopped upon reaching a certain page. On it was a photo of the demon lord, Ash, also known as the succubus of envy. Based on her portrait, the demon lord doesn't look like she'd commit such atrocities. Just as the book says, it's hypothesized that her rampage was caused by a betrayal. The war cost countless lives, ending only with the death of her, the Dullahan, and the elder Lick. Despite being her top lieutenants, the actions of the two raised many questions. Why did the Dullahan only wait for the enemy, instead of taking the initiative? Why did the Lich focus on obstructing people, instead of launching an attack? They could have wiped out humanity, but never showed murderous intent towards people. Another noteworthy detail concerns the third lieutenant who stayed by the king's side. Walking as a humanoid type was the Red Fox woman. It is around the time she appeared did the Demon King start becoming bellicose. Much about the monster remains a mystery until today, and the only fact they've confirmed is that she's a hedonist who delighted in deceiving humans. As such, she's widely regarded as the culprit who triggered Ash's rampage. Katie stares at the silhouette of the red fox, remembering that there's a similar figure or name being worshipped in Yahello. Just then, Tina jolted up after falling asleep while translating. The princess advises her to head home and rest, as she has to leave on a trip soon. Asked where they're headed, she hears that they'll be heading to Yahello and freezes. Turning to her book, she wonders if it's an odd coincidence. Now, she can only hope that nothing untoward happens. In the neutral trade city of Birdland, the crowd cheered as an intense match in the arena progressed. Among the fighters was Logas, who screamed with a warrior's vigor. He swung his blade, but his opponent, Edward, easily dodges down. However, he wasn't done yet, and followed up while he's vulnerable. Again, the spearman manages to defend. While he's unharmed, he was sent back and his arm trembled from the impact. The old man acknowledges that he's grown much stronger since they last met. To the general, it sounds like nothing more than sarcasm. Baited, he charged in again, ready to end the match. Edward says, taking one of his blows head-on is too much for his old body, so he just dodges everything instead. Leaping high up, he reaches his opponent's blind spot and uses the strength he has left to swing his spear at Logas's body. The attack nearly knocks him out cold and forces him to the ground. Before he could get up, a blade threateningly reached his throat. With this, Edward of Yahello is declared the winner of the bout. He helps his rival up, deeming it another wonderful match. For years now, the general has been wondering when he'll be able to defeat him. Grint and Cammy watched from the stands, and he couldn't believe that his father, the peerless warrior of Heim, was defeated. Calling to his mother, he promises to avenge him one day. She just smiles and says she has high expectations for him. After all, he's the chosen one, who has been gifted with the Holy Knight ability. They vow to make better use of that power than Shannon. In a different mansion, someone banged on the walls in anger. Tiger, the third prince of Heim, scowled. He's asked to calm down, as the regular report should arrive soon, but he questions how he's supposed to do that when his beloved crone has already been missing for 3 years. In fact, he questions how the man before him, Harley, could be so calm when she's his daughter. Speaking with respect, he says that he and his wife, Elena, have been in sorrow for a long time. However, as a parent and as the prince's subject, he feels that he must remain strong. Tiger realizes that he misspoke, and that they must be suffering the most. Harley could still remember his conversation with Graf, as they decided together that Kron will be safer in Eshtal, considering political tensions. Even so, he did not expect his daughter to foster such deep feelings in just one night. Back then, she adamantly insisted that they allow her to go to his side. The grandfather just wanted to make her wish come true somehow. He asks if he's doting too much, but was told that it's likely for the best anyway. Now, Tiger was endlessly circling his room, leaving Harley no choice but to quietly apologize for his one-sided feelings. A guard suddenly barged in, saying they've identified the last inn and carriage they used. He announces that the targets are headed for Yahello. Delighted by the news, he orders them to continue the search at once. Tiger then calls to the father, saying the day he'll be reunited with his daughter isn't that far off. Bowing down, he expresses his gratitude for his efforts, and promises to make Kron and Graf do the same once they return. If this is the case, the prince asks to take Kron's hand in marriage. Despite already knowing the truth, Harley plays along and supports his dreams. Tiger decides to head to Yahello as well, in addition to expanding the search. Calling for an attendant, he orders him to add Grint to his guard, since the boy seems talented enough. The image of his beloved's exquisite beauty lingers in his mind. Wishing to speak to her once more, he vows to find her one day. The gears of fate turn and, bit by bit, these young men get closer to each other. In the Principality of Yahello, Edward and Duke Amor are stunned by the massive size of Silva's personal ship. Intimidated, the noble asks if there's anything wrong with his appearance and is advised to remain dignified. Eshtal guards poured out of the vessel and formed a path. With still breaths, they waited until Ain walked out with his entourage, politely greeting the others and introducing himself as the king's proxy. Despite his age, the boy was as regal as one could be. This allows the hesitation to be cast away, and both sides hope for a fruitful meeting. Not wanting to make them linger, Amor offers to escort them to the castle. While Ain breathed to calm himself, Edward looked back at them silently. Asked if there's something wrong, he says he's just preoccupied with the prince. Standing before him, he couldn't help but see him as a colossal monster in spite of his stature. Tina might win in a proper duel, but against a monster, the boy might be stronger. Aside from this sheer strength, he wonders what other prowess he hides. They gather in a private room for the official discussions. However, they're unable to start as they hear an interrupting voice from outside. Tiger has rudely barged in on their meeting. The young man insists that he's been kept waiting, but they actually had no official appointment. He then says that this is a proper visit, as he carries a formal letter from the King of Heim. Warren stays silent for now, and allows him to call for the letter. Ain is stunned by the person who hands it over. It's his brother, Grint. Equally shocked, the younger boy points at his brother, revealing his identity as the noble who fled from their house of Roundheart. The room freezes with the revelation, and those unaware stared in shock. On the other hand, Ain just waved at the brother he hadn't seen in a long time. He also stops Dill and Tina, who had their hands on their weapons. The prince refuses to strike first, just like the first king of their noble nation. Since their business is urgent enough to make them barge in, the boy allows Tiger to speak. While perplexed, Amor obeys his instruction without another word. Grint screams at them, unable to believe their tone while speaking to the Prince of Heim. In this case, Ain counters that he's the crown prince of Eshtal, and says they're overstepping. His little brother grit his teeth in indignation. Ain sternly silences his brother, and the sheer authority in his tone makes him follow. Moving on, they're asked for their business in Yulo again. Clutching his heart, Tiger announces that he's looking for his wife, Crone August. Like before, the room is suddenly still and silent, but with a contrastingly awkward atmosphere, especially from the residents of Eshtal. The prince goes on about how she and her grandfather were found to have come to Yulo. Around the same time the nation began formal trade relations with Eshtal. Hearing about how they vanished 3 years ago, Ain gets an idea of what he's about to say. As expected, he accuses Yulo of selling the missing nobles to curry favor with their partner. It's a grave accusation, and Amor urgently refutes the idea that they would engage in any human trafficking. Unfortunately, allowing Yulo to be branded as a villain is hard to stomach as an ally. As the Duke said, Warren emphasizes that they do not engage in such vile forms of trade. Questioned who he is, he introduces himself as the Prime Minister of the nation. Not losing his arrogance, Tiger orders him to investigate the matter of the missing Heim citizens. With a sudden sharp gaze, the minister confirms if this is a trade arrangement, and reminds him that their countries have severed any and all diplomatic ties. In other words, there's no need for them to spend their own resources, considering this a trade. However, Heim has unilaterally broken pacts in the past, and can no longer be trusted. If they want this deal to go through, then Eshtal demands to be compensated first. Warren is really pushing the prince's buttons as much as possible, but Tiger nonetheless asks what he wants in exchange. The Prime Minister seeks Logos's head, but this is impossible, considering that he's the Grand General of Heim. As such, the old man immediately considers the deal broken. Grint shook with anger. No longer able to hold himself, he accuses his brother of being as small-minded as ever. Dill glares, barely holding himself back, but this allows the boy to call him a shameful figurehead, who leaves things to his subordinates. Finally, the personal guard snaps from the overflowing insolence. Seething with hostility, he regards Ain as the hero who single-handedly saved them from the sea dragon. Grint scoffs at the idea, still stuck with the old image he has of his brother, and is told that his narrow-mindedness is an indication of his true caliber. This infuriates the boy, and now both nobles of Heim are brimming with anger, leaving him more troubled with what might happen in the room. Finding it a waste to let time pass by in vain, Warren speaks with a suggestion for both of them. He proposes a sparring match, which makes the Crown Prince worry, but this is a good way to clarify their positions and spend time wisely. Meanwhile, the two fighters glared at each other, ready to fight right there. In the middle of Yulo's empty castle, the sounds of clanging metal and heavy panting could be heard. The people of Eshtal are surprised, not expecting the gap to be this big. Dill looked down at Grint, who could barely breathe from their sparring. The young guard was already one of the nation's finest, but he's certainly sharpened his skills recently. Ain was worried, but is glad that he's actually holding back considering the age difference. On the other hand, Tigger was scolding the boy and questioning what he's doing. The young one scowled at his opponent, who then turned to the Prime Minister. With the old man's approving nod, he readies his sword and invites him to another round. Smiling and telling him not to be too arrogant, Grint then activates his Holy Knight skill. The others are on guard as this wasn't part of the deal, but the boy was already charging in to strike. He raised his blade and Dill watched with eyes wide open. The exchange ends with them standing on opposite sides of the arena. There are varying reactions to the clash, but Grint then broke and fell to the floor. The referee ends the match and announces Dill as the winner. Walking to his young master, the guard kneels and dedicates the victory to him. He hopes the boy regrets insulting him, but it's fairly unlikely. Nonetheless, they can't ignore the potential and capability he holds. He certainly deserves the title of the Holy Knight, the pinnacle for most. Thinking it was the Sky Knights, Ain is told to ask his father about it later. Just then, Warren applauded, saying the brilliant fight stirred his heart as well. With tensions settled, he calls on Amor to continue with their meeting. Before this, he speaks to Tigger again, sharing that there's something he must know about Crone, and apologizing for bringing it up. He asks for permission to send the details later on. Much to the young one's delight, Aang quietly wonders what he's going to tell the prince. In addition to their vital role in Eshtal, he'll be revealing the young lady's relationship with Aang. The boy says he'd rather keep that under wraps, making his escorts laugh. As promised, Tigger later receives the documents and shakes in anger and disbelief as he reads about his beloved crone's situation. On the other hand, the discussions between Yulo and Eshtal proceeded without any problems, and the two nations quickly reached a mutually beneficial agreement. They even visit the sites to inspect the unprocessed sea stones. After finishing their official business, Aang and Tina are free to roam. The prince finds a beautiful spot that overlooks the city and is asked why he